Chapter 2907. Lance was very repulsed by foreign objects in his body. He always wanted to check if there was anything wrong with his body. At least, he had to go to the Human Body Examination Center to check if there was anything wrong with his body. But with Lance's situation, if he went to the examination center, he might be discovered to be O. Therefore, Lance was a little depressed. Ning Shu sucked on the nutrient solution and smacked his lips. Don't worry, there's no harm in it. It can transform your body. The most intuitive manifestation is that your strength has increased. Try it. Lance had a superstitious expression on his face. If that's the case and it can improve one's physical fitness, then everyone would be a mega. Everyone would be a grade. If there's such a thing, why hasn't the Federation and Empire popularized it? Ning Shu. There was really no way to talk to such a serious child. Ning Shu said, "You don't believe it. Do the Federation and the Empire believe it?" Lance said without thinking, "Of course not." So, they have strong confidence in their technology and mecha. How can they believe such a primitive thing? Because no one believes in this. Now, this kind of body-strengthening thing has disappeared. I also got this kind of thing by accident. Ning Shu didn't want to talk anymore. He directly stretched out his hand and slapped the hard space cabin-like door. A clear palm print appeared on the door. Ning Shu proudly raised his chin and said, "See, I have so much strength now." Lance was shocked. "Brother, are you overdrawing your strength? Or did you eat something to increase your strength?" Ning Shu, "We are so poor, how can we have the money to buy this kind of thing?" Ning Shu simply knelt down to this child. With this temperament, it was no wonder that he ran around with a family. He didn't know how many children Lance had. After all, O's children were very strong. In the future, if Lance's children lived, they would also be super strong, science. Lance grabbed his hair with an expression as if his worldview had collapsed. Lance still wanted to say something, but the artificial intelligence reminded him, "A guest is visiting." At the same time, the artificial intelligence automatically released the situation outside the door. This person seemed to be a colleague of the client. He suddenly came to the door for some unknown reason. Ning Shu said to Lance, "Go into the room and don't come out." The client was very low-key. Very few people knew that he had a younger brother at his workplace. If people were to find out about O's existence, most of the people who worked in the mecha junkyard lived in poverty. If they were to find out about O's existence, it didn't matter whether they told A or the buyers. The structure of the mountain pass. All of these could cause the family to fall into a desperate situation. After Lance entered the house, Ning Shu blocked the door. He looked at his colleague outside the door and asked, "What's the matter?" This man looked to be in his 30s and had a decent appearance. With the advancement of technology, even if he was really too ugly, it was only a matter of cosmetic treatment. The risk was very small. This was called body modification, not plastic surgery. The man took out a bag from behind his back, and the smell of cake wafted out. "I bought this for you. Let's eat together," the man said to Ning Shu. A cake was not something cheap. For poor people like them, buying a cake was not as good as buying a few bags of nutritional supplements, which could last them for half a month. One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. "Don't you think it's abrupt to come to my house? Can I go in?" Carl said to Ning Shu with a smile. Ning Shu suddenly felt his chrysanthemum tighten. This feeling of wanting to fuck you was too strong. Ning Shu thought of his crowded lower body again. Just imagining the feeling of two people hugging each other gave him goosebumps all over his body. This man was also AB, which meant that both sets of organs could be used. Fuck, this is a scary scene. I'm scared. Alpha male. The female part of the organs are not functional or are naturally missing. The male part of the organs are larger than the normal standard, including the knot. Beta male. Possesses both male and female organs, and can function in both cases. Omega male. Has both male and female organs. Alpha female. Can function with both organs, but rarely estrus. Has the lowest fertility rate and is the most masculine female gender. Beta female, similar to beta male, has a complete set of organs and can function, but lacks masculinity and has a low fertility rate. In addition, their male size is smaller and their knot is smaller. Similar to beta male, they can often establish mating relationships without mating. Omega female, male organs are missing or underdeveloped. They have frequent estrus and have a high fertility rate. What's the situation now? Is he sending himself to my door? Carl smiled warmly. Aren't you going to invite me in? Ning Shu shook his head. No, the house is very messy. I'm embarrassed to meet people. Carl shook his head. I don't mind. Actually, I just want to get to know you. At work, you rarely talk and don't communicate with people. Ning Shu rolled his eyes in his heart. So, you think I'm lonely and cold? This cake is for you. Carl probably saw Ning Shu's resistance and handed the cake to Ning Shu. I'm allergic to cream. I can't eat it. You can keep it for yourself. Ning Shu had seen the messy relationships in this world. They could do whatever they wanted, and the marriage relationship was not very strong. After all, people could turn green. It was similar to Animal World. Garland only smiled at Ning Shu's rejection. He carried the cake and turned to leave, looking extremely confident from the back. Ning Shu closed the door. It was too easy to get fat eating cakes. Lance came out of the house and said to Ning Shu, "Brother, that man likes you." "No, you're young and don't understand." Ning Shu looked like an experienced driver. He didn't like him very much. Perhaps he felt that the client was too lonely and cold. As long as he treated him a little better, the client would pounce on him. On the contrary, the client was very vigilant because he had a younger brother. Lance said, "Actually, at your age, you should start a family with someone. Don't worry about me." Ning Shu laughed and said, "Since you want to start a family, you must have someone you can trust and trust each other. What if the other party went to snitch and ran away with the bonus?" This kind of thing happened a lot. No matter where people were, human nature would not change. Especially living at the bottom, there was too much despair and difficulty. The oppression of survival made it even more difficult for people to choose to be kind. With a younger brother who was shining all over, it was not easy for the client to find someone who could really live with them. Lance lowered his head in silence. After a while, he looked up and said, "It's because of me." Ning Shu said, "You're my younger brother. We're the closest people." Chapter 2909. Heller was still watching Ning Shu's performance. The smell on your body can't be left by just brushing your body. You live with O, otherwise, you wouldn't have left such a smell. The administrator immediately said to Ning Shu, "Don't lie to Alpha. If there really is O, bring it over. It's also very uncomfortable for O to turn green. The key is that you can't fight a head-on." The administrator was afraid that he would also be implicated. Omega, the O that could make Alpha go crazy. It was very valuable. Ning Shu's mind was spinning rapidly. Finally, she nodded and said, "Actually," Heller looked at Ning Shu expectantly. "It was really great to meet O. A and O were a match made in heaven. Just such a thin pheromone was so sweet. How sweet would O be?" Heller's face was a little flushed. The pheromone of the faint smell made him a little green. Ning Shu looked at Heller's appearance. He had seen Lance's green face and was very familiar with this appearance. Ning Shu was speechless. And he even rubbed against her body. So fucking wretched. What the fuck? It was as if a teddy bear was hugging her leg. Alpha, who was respected and had a high social status, did such a thing. It was simply unbearable. The administrator was not used to it. He turned his eyes elsewhere and didn't look at Ning Shu and Heller, who was on top of the teddy bear. "Tell me where is it or I'll kill you." Heller was panting heavily. Ning Shu ran away directly. Heller, who was controlled by desire, was stunned for a moment. But then he quickly chased after Ning Shu. Heller's mecha, including his arms and legs, were equipped with extremely cool mecha. In a moment, he caught up with Ning Shu and stopped her. "Why are you running?" With a gust of wind, Heller woke up and looked at Ning Shu with a half smile. "I wasn't sure if you were in contact with O, but since you ran away, it proves that you have a guilty conscience. You must have had intimate contact with O." Ning Shu stared at Heller's legs. He really ran fast. She had peerless martial arts, but she didn't expect that she would still be caught. What a fast speed. The power of technology should not be underestimated. Heller said, I'm afraid you don't know who I am. I'm a colonel of the Federation. I have a lot of soldiers under my command. You won't be able to leave this planet today. So scared. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a man, Ning Shu would have patted his chest to express his fear. Colonel of the Federation. The soldiers of the Federation were not under the control of the Empire, and the Empire's army was not under the control of the Federation. Actually, the Federation was an organization similar to the United Nations. They were grouped together to discuss how to better the future of mankind. Each empire had different speaking rights in the Federation. Ning Shu said, You are a colonel of the Federation. How dare you kidnap someone from the Empire? You are looking down on the Empire. Also, do you dare to bring soldiers to the Empire's planet? You are provoking the great Empire. Heller said directly, Don't go overboard and escalate this matter to such a high level. Besides, I am only here to find someone I like. Even the Empire can't interfere in this matter. Heller smiled and looked at Ning Shu. If I kidnap you, that Omega will definitely come looking for you. Ning Shu was speechless. History was really shockingly similar. But now, Heller had not marked Lance. They hadn't even seen Lance. Lance also didn't run with a big belly. He ran with a ball. Ning Shu sized up the cool mech on Heller. Could he run or fight? This equipment was a little dangerous. Do you want me to kidnap you and make you suffer, or do you want to say it yourself? Heller was trembling with excitement. He was about to meet an Omega, the O of life. Ning Shu finally sighed helplessly. Okay, I will take you there. Heller followed Ning Shu closely and went home. It was a little desolate here. Heller frowned. Omega lives in a place like this. Ning Shu said, We are relatively poor. We can only live here. Even in the interstellar era, there was not much land. Most of the land was in the hands of powerful aristocrats and alphas. There were not many places for ordinary people to live. Some planets were even named after a person. Usually, this kind of planet was the private property of a person. The poor died of poverty, and the rich flowed with oil. At the door, Ning Shu could only hope that Lance would be smarter. The door opened automatically. Heller suddenly felt a sweet pheromone in the room. He howled and almost turned into a wolf. Lance came out of the room and saw a stranger. He was very defensive. Ning Shu immediately shouted, Lance, jump, sweat, release the pheromone. It would be easy to deal with Heller if he lost his mind. Lance held the door frame, his face a little red. Apparently he was affected by A's smell. He was turning green. Ning Shu. Was he going to do OOXX in front of her? Luckily, Lance was a little rational. He closed the door, trembling, and drank the suppressant. Heller, who was outside the door, was like a wild beast. He insisted on breaking into Heller's room, knocking the hard titanium door. But Heller's face was red. He didn't feel any pain at all. He even started to use the mecha. It was a shocking scene. Ning Shu found a metal rope and tied it around Heller's back. Heller was very strong. Ning Shu's face was also red. He used all his strength to tie Heller up like a shrimp. A snow-white blade appeared in Heller's mecha. He was going to cut the metal rope. Lance came out of the room. His condition was much better. He reached out and turned off the AI on Heller. He said to Ning Shu, This way, he can't contact anyone else. Heller's mecha was not very smooth because of his condition. He wriggled close to Lance on the ground and sucked in Lance's smell crazily. He showed an intoxicated expression. He had heard of drugs and cats, but he had never seen people sucking people. Lance poured the suppressant into Heller's mouth with a complicated expression. He raised his hand and knocked Heller out. Ning Shu. So elegant. Lance's face was red. His voice was a little hoarse and low, a little sexy. Ning Shu asked, What's going on? It was the first time he saw Alpha. In this slum-like place, a rarely appeared. Ning Shu told Lance the ins and outs of the matter. This was originally the plot. It would happen sooner or later. Instead of being caught by Heller and being unable to escape, it would be better for them to catch Heller. Even if they couldn't do anything to Heller, they could let Lance sweat and wander in front of him all the time. They could smell his pheromones and then feed him the suppressant. Back and forth. And Heller's position would definitely be located soon. They had to hurry up and solve the problem. Chapter 29:10. Xing carried the woman on the ground. She was already dying. Being carried by Xing, her face became even paler. Everyone, please search for the most complete information. Blood. Xing's hands were covered with blood. Ning Shu hailed a taxi by the roadside and pinched the woman's acupuncture points. Ning Shu's place was not easy to find a car, but there were some unlicensed cars. Xing put the woman in the car. Ning Shu said, "You go to the hospital. I will look for her again." Ning Shu asked, "If you meet a woman who was hurt, what will you do?" "If I can save her, then I will. If I can't, then forget it," Xing said coldly. Ning Shu nodded and asked the driver to drive faster. When they got close to the hospital, Ning Shu heard the sirens of ambulances coming in and out. The whole city was filled with the sirens of ambulances. Ning Shu carried the woman into the hospital and shouted to the nurse, "Hurry up and give her a blood transfusion." The nurse saw that Ning Shu was carrying a woman and was calm. He was not even panting. She was stunned but quickly pushed the bed over. Ning Shu put the woman on the bed. The woman grabbed the corner of Ning Shu's clothes tightly. Ning Shu could only push her hand away. One by one, the beds passed by Ning Shu. The woman on the bed was holding her stomach and crying in pain. Her body was covered in blood. It seemed that they were all attacked by the aliens. It was not that the ambulances did not want to go, but there were not enough ambulances. Ning Shu took the tissue with semen and prepared to test it. He wanted to see what semen was in the alien's body. Ning Shu was actually most afraid of semen. If that was the case, then the reproduction of the aliens was terrifying. Ning Shu went to the laboratory and asked the doctor to check. Ning Shu waited outside the door. After a while, the laboratory staff said that it was semen. Ning Shu spat and washed his hands. There were small tadpoles in the big tadpoles' bodies. When the big tadpole grew, the small tadpoles also grew. Every tadpole had a small tadpole. This thing has truly achieved sexless reproduction. Ning Shu took out his mobile phone and called Xing. Xing was silent for a long time before he said, "I really admire Su Hongyuan." No, Ning Shu was the scientist who had taken the drug. It was all because of a man that such a thing happened. Ning Shu hung up the phone. When he passed by a ward, he saw that it was extremely chaotic. Ning Shu pushed the door open and saw a nurse clutching her stomach. Her face was contorted in fear. Blood flowed out from under her. Ning Shu hurriedly said, "Hurry up and take out the xenomorph. Take it out and kill it. Hurry up." The alien had probably been removed from the patient's body and placed on the tray. In the end, it had entered the nurse's body. The nurse was held down. The doctor cut open her stomach and took out the alien that was the size of a golf ball. Ning Shu picked up the scissors on the tray and cut off the xenomorph's tail. She covered the xenomorph with something and stepped on it. Ning Shu's step did not kill the alien. He stepped on it again and still did not kill it. The alien squeaked. It was a little awkward. Ning Shu took the scissors and stabbed it directly into the alien's head. Ning Shu said, "This has to be killed directly. Otherwise, it will attack people everywhere in the hospital. Maybe you don't believe it, but this is a human sperm." The doctors and nurses were speechless. Ning Shu got a set of medical equipment from the hospital. There were all kinds of tools needed for surgery. Ning Shu felt that as long as there were scalpels, sutures, and anesthetics, it would be enough. The small tadpoles were still small and liked to drill into women's bodies. When they grew up, they would not be able to drill into women's bodies. They would bite and swallow people. Carrying the box, Ning Shu walked out of the hospital. He saw another woman being carried out of the ambulance. Ning Shu looked away and slung the box over his body. He called Xing and asked, "Where are you? I'll come and find you." Xing told him a location. Ning Shu hailed a car and went to the address. Ning Shu looked out of the window. The neon lights were flashing and the bustling city that never sleeps was bustling. But the undercurrents were surging. Those aliens hiding in the unknown would attack people. Ning Shu felt that the alien was a despicable thing. If there were two people in front of it, A man and a woman, the alien would attack the woman first. Despicable. Ning Shu arrived at the place Xing said. He got out of the car and saw Xing sitting on the flower bed with 2 shotguns beside him. Ning Shu walked over and gave him a bottle of water. How is it? It's not easy. Xing opened the bottle cap and drank. There are also many patients in the hospital who have been attacked. The people above should pay attention to it. Ning Shu said. Xing raised his head and drank half a bottle of water. Then he saw Ning Shu's box. Well, taking the alien out of the woman's body is the best way. Let's go. Xing stood up and handed a shotgun to Ning Shu. Xing took out a copper coin and divined. Then the 2 of them followed the copper coin. In a bush, they saw something swimming in the grass, making a squeaking sound. Xing looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised the shotgun and released his spiritual force. He located the position of the alien and pulled the trigger. With a pop, something exploded. Ning Shu walked over and saw a pool of white sperm splashed on the grass. Ning Shu took out disinfectant from the medical kit and poured it directly on the sperm to dilute and kill them. Normal sperm can't live for long outside the body, Xing said. Ning Shu, do you think these sperm are normal? Ning Shu felt a little desperate. If he killed one, more would come out of the body. Burn it with fire? Xinjiang suggested. After all, it's a mutated thing. Then I'll use concentrated sulfuric acid. Ning Shu said fiercely. He didn't believe that it could survive in concentrated sulfuric acid. Xing looked worried. What I'm worried about is another problem. That is, will someone use this thing to achieve their own selfish desires? Ning Shu asked. Someone will keep this thing in captivity. It can't be, right? This thing will grow bigger and bigger and there will be more aliens in its body. Xing frowned. Humans are smart, but don't underestimate their desires. They can blind their minds. If we let these things attack the bank, attack the cash truck, there was no lack of opportunistic people in the world. Ning Shu was silent. Even I want to do that. Xing scratched his head. If it spreads, this plane may be finished. You and I will fail the mission, especially since both of us can't control the situation. Ning Shu, what can I say? I'm also very desperate. Xing said, let's go look for it first. If we find one, we'll have one less. Ning Shu nodded and followed behind Xing with the box. Originally, he wanted to. Chapter 29:11. Ning Shu asked mischievously, then can you predict what I'm going to do next? Xing glanced at Ning Shu and said, go to the toilet. Ning Shu was speechless. Then I'll hold it in. You drank so much water just now. It's inevitable that you'll go to the toilet, or it'll be later, Xing said. Ning Shu felt that this was pretty awesome. Although it was just a curse and not the real law of time, it was still pretty awesome. Ning Shu once again had the idea of learning incantations. Although curses were not the real law of time, it was still a method. There was no distinction between power and cheap power. As long as it was useful, it was good power. Speaking of being a country bumpkin, her ultimate martial arts were even more country bumpkin. But now, her ultimate martial arts had become the medium for her to build her world. What could people say about this? Ning Shu was deep in thought. Then she felt the urge to pee and wanted to go to the toilet. Ning Shu rolled her eyes and went to the toilet with her gun. Predicting that she wanted to pee was also drunk. Ning Shu squatted in a secluded place to pee. She saw an alien the size of a man's fist swimming in front of her. It jumped at her excitedly. Ning Shu didn't even pull up her pants. She fired a shot and the alien was annihilated. Nothing was left. After dealing with the alien, Ning Shu pulled up her pants. Her expression didn't change at all. 2333 suddenly said, Ning Shu, you've changed. Ning Shu squinted. How have I changed? Have I become prettier? Tell me honestly, can you see when I go to the toilet? 2333. I mean, you're starting to develop into a qualified mission enforcer. You can face all kinds of situations calmly, 2333 said. She could drink coffee in a cafe, eat steak elegantly in a high-class restaurant, and pick up garbage to eat when her life was threatened. It was the first time Ning Shu heard 2333 praise her. Ning Shu flipped her hair and said proudly, "I've always been so outstanding. Don't admire me. But in my heart, you've always been a naughty retard. That hasn't changed. 2333. You're the retard. You're the retard." Ning Shu went back to Xing's side. Xing was doing something. Ning Shu glanced. Xing was reading the news. "What's the news?" Ning Shu asked. "The city is closed. The highway here is to be closed." Xing put her phone away and leaned against the wall. Ning Shu rubbed her calves. "It looks like the economy of this place is going to decline. I have to find a new city to buy a house." "Xing? Shouldn't we be talking about getting rid of the aliens first? All we talk about is buying houses, buying houses, buying houses. I don't think it's possible for the economy to regress. After the disaster, there will definitely be a lot of construction," Xing said. "Does that mean I can buy a house here?" Ning Shu thought for a while. She would wait until the matter was settled and see if the house price was affordable. Xing. To walk to Xing's to be to walk to find the alien. He could only rely on his 2 feet and could not drive. Moreover, he had to crawl through the sewers. It was really miserable. Xing helped Ning Shu carry the first aid kit, so the two of them took turns to carry it. Ning Shu had used up some of the medicine in the kit. Some pharmacies were closed. Ning Shu could only go to the hospital. Now, every hospital was in a state of full capacity, and some medical staff were injured. Ning Shu wanted anti-inflammatory medicine and anesthetics but was told that the hospital was out of stock. "Ning Shu, I can exchange for some. Anyway, I have the right to buy some," Xing said. A box of medicine appeared in front of her. There were anti-inflammatory and anesthetics. As time passed, this batch of aliens started to grow. Some of them were the size of a wash basin. If they killed the aliens in a normal way, there would be small aliens the size of a child's finger in their bodies. They would grow endlessly. Ning Shu killed an alien the size of a wash basin and said to Chao Xing, "I wonder what kind of weapons the armed forces are using. It's useless to just kill the aliens. In fact, there will be more of them." Xing didn't know what to say. Ning Shu even suspected that they were going to stay in this plane forever to kill these things. Ning Shu suspected that these things had spread out. After all, they were active in the sewers. Maybe they would flow into the sea and float to various places. Ning Shu wiped his face. He didn't dare to think about it. Xing's expression didn't look good. If they failed this mission, they would use up one authority and the power of faith. It wouldn't be worth it if they failed. If they bombed them, it would be like using a cannon to kill mosquitoes. They could only rely on manpower to destroy them. It was quite a hopeless situation. "Come, let's hug each other and continue to fight the monsters," Xing said helplessly. "Ning Shu, I think they should send someone. The two of us can't handle it," Ning Shu said. "My system has reported the situation here. Let's wait." Xing wiped the sweat off her forehead. Ning Shu heard Xing's words and felt that the system Xing was talking about was so soft and cute. Thinking about his own system, he felt like dying. When something happened, it shrank back. I also reported it, but I feel guilty," 2333 said. "Ning Shu, what are you guilty of?" "Ning Shu, I once helped you exchange for the death-like pill, helped you reach the Law Sea, and even helped you pass on the Soul Pearl once." 2333 was very familiar with it. "I don't remember it at all." Ning Shu rolled her eyes. "You brought me to the Law Sea because you coveted the Chaos Stone in my hands." 2333, a person who held grudges. "You don't dare to show your existence because you're afraid of being punished?" Ning Shu, these things were all on her head. Ning Shu's intuition told her that 2333 was hiding something from her. "I advise you not to do anything overboard behind my back." Ning Shu said solemnly, "I haven't built a world yet. It's very likely that I'll be obliterated, completely obliterated." "I didn't. What can I do? Even if I do, it's to serve you," 2333 said. Ning Shu looked indifferent. "You're using me as an excuse again. I feel that you want to push the blame to me." He was determined not to be the scapegoat. You're too sensitive. We're one. Betraying you is betraying myself. I won't do things that harm others without benefiting myself. Ning Shu shook her head. No, you might do things that harm others for your own benefit. 2333 was silent for a moment and said, I'll say it again. We're one. Ning Shu walked with a solemn expression. Xing stopped and saw that Ning Shu's expression was not good, and said, Let me help you carry it for a while. Ning Shu's shoulder was in pain. His clothes were stuck to the wound, and it was painful when he pulled it. What's wrong with you? Xing could not help but ask. The atmosphere was very low. He had never seen this mission enforcer like this. Ning Shu looked at Xing, thought for a moment and asked, Do you think the system will betray the mission enforcer? Originally, it was his own. Chapter 29:12. Usually, Ning Shu was very low-key in the residence. He would do everything secretly at night. Please search for the most complete information. Ning Shu sent the little beggar to give him some food and asked him to help keep an eye on the Yin family. The last time I Ching came to visit, Ning Shu felt that I Ching had something to tell him. She probably had some concerns. Speaking of which, she and I Ching were on opposite sides now. Zhuche was a member of the royal family. If he wanted to treat a woman well, no woman in the world could oppose him. Gu Fanlu was sick. When he got a little better, Ning Shu went to his room and took a stroll. The next day, Gu Fanlu fell seriously ill again. Old Madam invited several doctors to take turns to treat Gu Fanlu. She was afraid that her sister's grandson would die in Marquis Xuanping's residence. Even if the sick Gu Fanlu's mind was muddled, he could still guess some things. He was still lying on the bed when he told Old Madam that he wanted to move out. How could Old Madam let Gu Fanlu recuperate alone? She insisted on making Gu Fanlu stay. Gu Fanlu's face was pale. Stay my ass. Gu Fanlu knew that he had been schemed against. This time he was sick. Next time he might die. This was most likely done by Marquis Xuanping. Gu Fanlu insisted on leaving. He said that he was so seriously ill that it might be an epidemic. It would not be good if he infected the people in Marquis Xuanping's residence. Old Madam had no choice but to send a few people to wait on Gu Fanlu. Gu Fanlu was carried out of Marquis Xuanping's residence. Ning Shu stood in the pavilion and watched Gu Fanlu leave from afar. Little Qing really went with him. What good luck! Lian Xiao stomped her feet and curled her lips. She went to wait on him, not to be his pillow. Why are you so agitated? Ning Shu said lightly. Lian Xiao probably suffered at Little Qing's hands before and took the opportunity to mock and ridicule Little Qing. Ning Shu turned to look for Old Madam. Ning Shu bowed. Granddaughter greets grandmother. Zhuru, come to grandmother. Dowager Duchess Ning Shu beckoned. Ning Shu walked over and asked Old Madam with a smile, Cousin is so sick. How can we send him away? What will Grandaunt think? Cousin, even if you want to leave, you have to wait until you're seriously ill. Ning Shu said as he massaged the Dowager Duchess's shoulders. Being pressed by Ning Shu, the Old Madam felt very comfortable. She squinted her eyes slightly and said, Fan Lu insisted on leaving. She said that she was afraid of passing the disease to us. Ning Shu said softly, Cousin doesn't want to implicate us, but we can't think that way. Great Aunt must have a grudge against Grandmother. Grandmother also doesn't want others to say that our Marquis Xuanping's residence is harsh and merciless, throwing people out when we see them sick. The Dowager Duchess was so comfortable that she was about to fall asleep. When she heard Ning Shu's words, she said, It's indeed not very appropriate. Cousin said that he was afraid of passing the disease, but the people who serve him are not sick. This means that Cousin doesn't have the disease. Grandmother, is it comfortable? It's really what granddaughter learned from medicine. It can promote blood circulation, remove blood stasis, and relieve fatigue. Ning Shu changed the topic. It's very comfortable. Zhuru is still filial. In the future, when you have nothing to do, come and give grandmother a massage. Ning Shu agreed briskly. The Dowager Duchess was old and went to take an afternoon nap. After that, the sick Gu Fanlu was carried back to Marquis Xuanping's residence. No matter how much Gu Fanlu didn't want to come back, her delicate body was weak and she was carried back to Marquis Xianping's residence. Ning Shu stood in the pavilion and looked at the weak Gu Fanlu. Ning Shu didn't go near Gu Fanlu. There was no need to flaunt his prowess and make Gu Fanlu suspicious. If Gu Fanlu was suspicious, it would arouse Zhuo Kairan's suspicion. She was just an ordinary girl in the backyard. She didn't step out of the house and only embroidered. Miss, young master doesn't find it troublesome to go back and forth like this. How can the illness be cured? Lian Xiao was a straightforward girl. She asked whatever she wanted to ask. Ning Shu said, just walk around and breathe in the fresh air. Then the illness will be cured. Lian Xiao's face was full of question marks. Ning Shu returned to her courtyard and picked up the embroidery to embroider the word longevity. After a while, it would be the Dowager Duchess's 60th birthday. Miss, Sister Cui, who serves Madam, came over and said that Madam has something to discuss with you. Ning Shu put down her embroidery and moved her neck. She asked, did Cui say anything? The Marquis is also here. Ning Shu tidied up and followed Cui to Madame Rongwa's courtyard. Ning Shu entered the room and felt that the atmosphere was very tense. Marquis Xianping's face was dark as he drank tea. Madame Rongwa looked helpless. Ning Shu bowed. Father, what happened? Madame Rongwa couldn't help but sigh. She looked at Ning Shu with eyes full of love and helplessness. Marquis Xianping placed the teacup on the table and said directly, the marriage between Marquis Xianping and Prince Exen can't go through. Ning Shu's expression didn't change. Your daughter will listen to father. Marquis Xianping's expression became slightly better. Aren't you going to ask father why? No matter what father does, it is for the sake of the Marquis Xianping's residence, Ning Shu said. From today onwards, you will be infected with a serious illness. When the time comes, father will cancel this marriage. Madame Rongwa spoke. Marquis, why must you be infected with a serious illness? This is too unfair to Zhu Ru. Who would dare to marry Zhu Ru in the future? Why don't you find an enlightened monk and say that the two of them are incompatible? Back then, when the 8 characters were matched, it was said to be a heaven-sent match. Now, you say that the 8 characters are incompatible. Do you think others are stupid? How should I explain this to His Majesty? Marquis Xianping's residence had a headache. He really couldn't figure out how he had offended Zhuo Qiran to the point that he wouldn't let him go. It wasn't easy for him to gather 3 million taels and 20,000 dan of grain. In the end, Zhuo Qiran was still not satisfied and told His Majesty that the disaster in Hanyang was too serious and there was already a riot. This bit of money was not enough. Zhuo Qiran had always been liked by His Majesty and he agreed with Zhuo Qiran's words. He also felt that this bit of money was a bit too little. Marquis Xianping really wanted to curse. Marquis Xianping didn't want to marry his daughter over now. Of course, the one who would be at a disadvantage was still his daughter, whether she was married or not. Madame Rongwa's heart ached for her daughter. This was the legitimate daughter of Marquis Xianping's residence. She was raised well, she was taught poetry and etiquette. Her daughter, who was raised with great difficulty, was ruined just like that. Not to mention that this was trampling on Marquis Xianping's residence's face. Not to mention that this was her own daughter. What do you think? Marquis Xianping felt a little guilty when he saw that Ning Shu didn't make a fuss or cry. Ning Shu bowed. Daughter will listen to father. Father doesn't want daughter to marry into Prince Xian's residence because he loves daughter dearly. Daughter understands. Marrying into Prince Xian's residence would be a disaster. Marquis Xianping's residence would be destroyed. Su Zhu would be wandering around in the mountains of romance, singing decadent songs of romance. Her heart was already riddled with holes and incomparably vicissitudes of life. She originally thought that. Chapter 29:13. Ning Shu's face was filled with joy as he asked Consort Xian, "Have you seen a royal doctor?" Consort Xian's pale face flushed red as she said, "Qinxia hasn't seen a royal doctor. I just thought that the weather is too hot and my spleen and stomach isn't in good condition. Plus, Qinxia's period has always been messy, so I didn't pay much attention. BSP, the weather is so hot. You should find a royal doctor to get some pills to stimulate the appetite and strengthen the spleen, Ning Shu said with a smile. The royal doctor quickly came and took Consort Xian's pulse. Then Ning Shu said, Empress, Consort Xian is already 1 month pregnant. That's great. The emperor finally has a child. Ning Shu smiled at Consort Xian and said, From today onwards, you have to take care of the baby. You can't make any mistakes. The child you give birth to is the emperor's eldest son, so there can't be any mistakes. From today onwards, I will eat, live, and sleep with you until the child is born. The harem needs a child too much. The emperor isn't young anymore, Ning Shu said casually. Consort Xian was dumbfounded. Then she said, Empress, Chinxia doesn't want to trouble you. Ning Shu waved his hand. From today onwards, the most important matter in the harem is Consort Xian's dragon fetus. Give birth to the dragon fetus at all costs. If anyone's hands stretch too far, I don't mind cutting them off. Ning Shu's sharp gaze flashed across everyone present. The concubines were all frightened by Ning Shu's sharp gaze. They all bowed and said, Chinchira obeys. You can all leave. Consort Xian, stay. Ning Shu waved his hand. The concubines all left. Consort Xian rubbed her stomach. She looked at Ning Shu with fear in her eyes. Extinguish all the incense in the room, Ning Shu said to she. She immediately used water to extinguish the incense in the incense burner. Then she opened the window. Although I don't know if the incense is harmful, it's better not to light it. In the future, don't light it in your hall, Ning Shu said to Consort Xian. Concubine Xian nodded. I'll remember it. This consort wasn't joking when she said that we would eat and live together. Don't think that I would do anything to you, said Ning Shu. This concubine really doesn't dare to trouble the empress. This concubine is deeply afraid. Concubine Xian's jade nose was dripping with sweat. Don't talk about these useless things. This empress won't do anything to you. On the contrary, this empress wants to protect the child in your belly. Right now, everyone in the court, including the emperor, thinks that this empress is immoral. If you lose your child, do you think this empress will have a good ending? This empress will be frank with you today. You must have this child. Consort Xian bowed. Thank you, concubine, but it's just living and eating together. It's not a big deal. From today onwards, I'll live with you in your palace. Ning Shu said to she, just pack some clothes. Nyang. She was somewhat disapproving. The empress was living in the concubine's palace. Go. After that, Ning Shu moved to concubine Xian's Wei Yang Palace. He had people carefully inspect everything in Wei Yang Palace, including some antiques, calligraphy, paintings, jewelry, rouge, and some clothes. He also had the Tan family find a female doctor who knew medicine into the palace. He also found a servant girl who knew martial arts. The female doctor and the servant girl who knew martial arts were all there to protect concubine Xian. With Ning Shu, there was a high chance that they could protect the child in concubine Xian's belly. Concubine Xian stared dumbfoundedly at the swift and decisive Ning Shu. In a short period of time, her palace had changed its appearance. Ning Shu tilted his head and followed concubine Xian's instructions. Concubine Xian, don't wear too much makeup when you're pregnant. It's not good for the child and it's easy to fall into a trap. This concubine will listen to the empress. Concubine Xian could only say helplessly. But looking at the empress, it didn't seem like she wanted to harm the child in her belly. The feeling of sharing a bed with the empress at night was wonderful. The empress's hand was placed on her belly and gently stroked it. It really made one's hair stand on end. But every time before eating, a female doctor would first check all the dishes, including the bowls and chopsticks. After checking, the empress would eat first and then let her eat. Concubine Xian's current goal was to give birth to the child first. No matter if it was a boy or a girl, it would be the emperor's first child. The emperor would definitely have special feelings for it. Dao Tenza, who was well-mannered, was instantly furious when he heard that a concubine in the harem was pregnant. Although he had asked someone to serve the empress in his place, she was pregnant now and these concubines still looked happy. Ao Tianza wanted to chop the pregnant concubine. You know what to do, right? Ao Tianzi looked at the secret guard kneeling in front of him. The secret guard said yes and then said hesitantly, "The Empress will eat and live with concubine Xian." "So what if the Empress is pregnant? Let her do it." Ao Tianzi said. It was a good time to do it. The Empress brought a female doctor from the Tan family and a servant girl who knows a little martial arts. It's not easy to do it. The secret guard said, "Every meal will be checked." Heh, this Empress is really responsible. Ao Tianzi rubbed his forehead and stood up. He was going to Weiyang Palace. Since she was pregnant, he should reward her with something. Ao Tianzi arrived at Weiyang Palace and was welcomed by two women. Ning Shu smiled and said to Ao Tianzi, "Your Majesty, concubine Xian is pregnant. After 10 months, she will give birth to a prince. I congratulate your Majesty." Ning Shu clearly saw Ao Tianzi's eyebrows tremble. Concubine Xian was beaming with joy. She placed her hand on her waist and acted like a pregnant woman. She slightly stuck out her belly and shouted to Ao Tianzi, "Your Majesty." Ao Tianzi glanced at concubine Xian's belly. "My beloved concubine, you have suffered. These things are bestowed to you by me. Use them well. I hope that my beloved concubine will still be beautiful when you are pregnant." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Concubine Xian smiled as she looked at the things that the palace servants were holding. There were rouge, face powder, luxurious jewelry, and some strange and interesting things. Ning Shu narrowed her eyes slightly and said with a smile, "Rest assured, Your Majesty. I will definitely protect the dragon fetus and let concubine Xian give birth to a healthy dragon heir. I will definitely give sister concubine Xian a happy pregnancy and give birth to a smart child," Ning Shu said without generosity. She even had a joyful expression on her face, as if she was pregnant herself. "Thank you, Your Majesty. The Empress has her own pepper palace and doesn't need to live in Weiyang Palace," Ao Tianzi said. "It's not hard at all. As long as sister concubine Xian can give birth to a dragon heir, I will be satisfied. Rest assured, Your Majesty. I will definitely take good care of sister concubine Xian and not let anything happen to her." Ning Shu looked like a loyal, patriotic, and magnanimous mother of the nation. Ao Tianzi clenched his hand under his robe and said with gratification, "You are really my good Empress." Ning Shu smiled. "I am duty-bound. Congratulations, Your Majesty, you are going to be a father." "Happy to be a father. BSP." Chapter 29:14. If he wasn't attracted by pheromones, then he wasn't an A. General Tobias wasn't an A. Ning Shu and Lance were both a little surprised. According to the official information released by the Empire, Tobias was the most powerful A. Could it be that he was so powerful that he could resist the interference of pheromones? Lance replied, "I'm not that useful to you, General, but I'm definitely useful to the other A. After all, even a federal colonel wants to capture me." "Are you trying to provoke me?" Tobias grabbed Lance by the back of his neck and pulled him into the room as if he were a kitten. Ning Shu immediately tried to stop him. "General, what are you trying to do?" "It's not that I'm trying to do anything, but your little brother wants me to mark him. If I don't do that, then he'll be very disappointed, and I'll be putting on a show for nothing." Tobias was very tall, and he looked down at Ning Shu and Lance from above. Regardless of whether it was in terms of height or status, he was superior to them in every way. Ning Shu looked at Lance, who was still being held by the neck, and asked in a small voice, "Little brother?" Lance smiled and replied, "I'm fine." Ning Shu looked up at Tobias. "He's my only little brother. How can you treat him well if you mark him like that? What the fuck? This is way too arrogant. He's dragging someone into a room to stew meat right in front of his guardian." Tobias' expression was cold, and his buzz cut made him appear extremely stern. Only those with weak hearts can't wait to make a promise. Those with weak hearts need to make a promise verbally. Ning Shu smiled and said, "General, you probably don't understand that there's something called ritual. Even though it's just a verbal promise, it's still a type of ritual. With this ceremony, everything will seem more solemn and beautiful. Don't you need to boost morale when you go to war? This is a ritual, and it's absolutely necessary. My little brother has been enduring the pain of turning blue ever since he became an adult, and he's drunk a lot of suppressants. But my little brother is waiting for you. Tobias furrowed his brows. Sorry, but I'm not interested in what you're saying. Since he's been marked by me, then he's one of my people. If you want to take his life, then you'll have to step over his dead body. Ning Shu looked at Lance, and Lance remained silent with a determined expression. Ning Shu knew that this was Lance's business, after all. Furthermore, after taking care of Lance, Ning Shu still had to find Heller. Even if something happened to Lance and Tobias in the future, he wouldn't be implicated. Lance was smart enough to do his own things, and she was a hindrance by his side. Tobias, of course, and Tobias's of course, and Tobias, of course, Tobias. Tobias and Lance's and Lance, ants and Lance, TSS'd? Ning Shu and Lance looked at each other, and Lance returned a smile to Ning Shu. Ning Shu returned a smile. Ning Shu was going to leave after this matter was resolved. Furthermore, this was an interstellar plane, so Ning Shu felt like there should be some good stuff here. If Lance escaped like in the storyline, then he wouldn't be a burden to Lance, and he would be able to escape even more freely. Ning Shu was surprised to see that General Tobias wasn't affected by the pheromone, and he displayed an extremely high level of self-control. The door was closed, and they couldn't hear anything inside. Ning Shu leaned against the crack in the door, trying to hear what was going on inside. However, he couldn't hear anything. There were fresh fruits on the table. Ning Shu hadn't eaten any fruit since he came here, and he immediately craved them as he waited for them to come out. Furthermore, he was a little worried that his little brother wouldn't be able to last much longer. Ning Shu surreptitiously released his spiritual power, but his spiritual power was blocked by the metal door, and he couldn't even squeeze his way in. Lance turned to Tobias. Do I need to take a shower first? No need. I can't smell anything from your body anyway, Tobias replied coldly before calmly taking off his clothes. Lance was quite surprised. Your olfactory system? My olfactory system was destroyed when I was young, so I'm essentially an incomplete alpha, so I can't sense O's pheromone. Lance asked, why didn't you repair it? With current technology, even if it couldn't be repaired, there were replacements, and he would still be able to smell it. Why should I repair it? It was actually better not to have a sense of smell, especially on the battlefield. If O's pheromone was used, it would cause the soldiers to become restless. In particular, he was a general, so he had to maintain a calm mind at all times. Not only did he have to maintain a calm mind, but he also had to maintain a calm body as well. Do you still want to be marked by me? Tobias was as cold as if he were on the battlefield. A smile appeared on Lance's face. No, I like you better like this. A hint of astonishment appeared on Tobias' face. But this is good. It means that our relationship isn't due to our pheromone attraction. No, I'm marking you. I just wanted to test my alpha abilities, and you just so happened to appear. I don't have any feelings for you right now. Lance's eyelids twitched upon hearing this. These two were two extremes. Heller's pheromone made him look like he was about to explode at any moment, while Tobias was extremely cold toward him due to his olfactory system. In fact, Tobias was even wary of him. Lance continued, that's all right. I've already offended a federal colonel, so you need an EJ to test your abilities, while I need a powerful being to protect me. It's a win-win situation. You're a hero of the Empire, while I've contributed nothing to the Empire, so I'm the one taking advantage of you. Is that so? Let's begin then. Tobias didn't reply as he covered Lance's body. Outside the door, Ning Shu had already finished an entire plate of fruits, but he still hadn't come out. He rubbed his stomach and fell asleep on the shiny floor. When he woke up, he found that 3 hours had already passed. Ning Shu? He still hasn't come out? Could it be that his body was made of iron? Tobias came out of the room in a neat and tidy outfit. Ning Shu hurriedly asked, Where's my brother? He's sleeping, don't disturb him, Tobias replied in an indifferent voice. Ning Shu nodded in response. Tobias didn't seem to have changed at all. Could it be that they were just going to lie down and chat before going to sleep? Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, Lance? You know what I mean. Tobias, I've already marked him. Ning Shu, can you not be so calm? You're a physical and spiritual being, so why do you feel like you're going to eat? One thing was for sure, Tobias didn't have any feelings for his brother. Why would Lance do something like this? Lance was a very prideful person, and he didn't know what would happen between the two of them. It was probably going to be quite the ordeal. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 29:15. Ning Shu didn't have much to say to Tobias. He was clearly Tobias' brother-in-law, yet he was treating him so coldly. Lance woke up before the battleship arrived at the most prosperous planet in the Empire, and Ning Shu prepared some food for him to eat. It was rare that he didn't have to drink nutrient fluids, so he quickly ate them. Ning Shu asked, "You and Tobias?" Lance replied, "I've already marked him." "Of course I'm going to guide you in marking him. I'm referring to the relationship between you two." The relationship between the two of them was far too strange. Lance merely replied, "Don't worry, big brother. I know what I'm doing." Ning Shu nodded. "Then it's fine as long as you know what you're doing. Lance, I have something to tell you. Since you've found someone worthy of your trust, I'm going to visit some other planets." Ning Shu turned to Lance and said, "Besides, I'm actually not that useful here. Instead, I'll only be a hindrance to you and General Tobias." Lance lowered his head and poked at his food. "Are you going to leave me, big brother?" "I'm not leaving you, I just want to travel around. I'm relieved that you have General Tobias' protection. However, if you still want General Tobias to protect me, you'll have to make demands of him. The more demands you make, the more subordinate you'll be. If you really want to be on the same level as Tobias, you'll have to make as few demands as possible." Lance was already in a weak position, and if he were to cling on to Tobias and make demands again and again, he would be even more helpless. Lance nodded. "I understand. Then, when do you plan to leave, big brother?" "I'll leave after you settle down." She was going to go on a treasure hunt. Tobias took Ning Shu and Lance to a place to stay. On this planet, every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, so the fact that Tobias was able to provide Lance and Ning Shu with such a large house indicated that he was quite wealthy. This house was clearly new. Lance looked at the house and asked, "What's the meaning of this?" Tobias replied, "This is a place for you to stay, so there's no need to be shy." "I won't be shy, I'll stay here." Lance said to Tobias, "I'm willing to work for you, but I have a request. Give my brother a pass, he wants to leave this place." Tobias, "Sure. Thank you. How much is it? I will pay you back." Lance also knew that this kind of thing could only be obtained by people with power and influence. "Tobias, there's no need for that. You deserve it." Lance's expression did not change. "I know very well whether I should or not." Tobias didn't say anything and left. Ning Shu increasingly felt that the atmosphere between the two of them was extraordinarily strange. Ning Shu asked, "General Tobias is B, right? Otherwise, why wouldn't he have any reaction to Lance's pheromone? It was too cold, too normal." After seeing Heller's reaction, he felt that Tobias' reaction was very strange. Lance sat down and said, "He's A, and there are some secrets. It's better if you don't know." Ning Shu wasn't curious anymore. In any case, Tobias had nothing to do with her. "Let's leave after you get the pass, but you have to be careful of the federal colonel. He probably won't give up, but he'll most likely come after me instead of you." Lance was a little tired, so he lay down to rest. Ning Shu couldn't help but look at his stomach. "You're not pregnant, are you?" This kind of body constitution that allowed one to get pregnant after one night of lovemaking was quite a scam. There wasn't even any buffer. "Lance." "Not so soon." Lance's brows furrowed as he thought about this. He was clearly a little troubled. Ning Shu felt like there was a chance that Lance might be pregnant. After all, the marking process involved the exchange of pheromones. Ning Shu was wondering if she should stay behind to take care of her pregnant brother. What if his brother ran away with the ball again? Was he going to run away alone again? Ning Shu scratched his head and asked, "Are you sure you want to stay with General Tobias? What will you do if you have his child?" "I'll raise it, of course," Lance replied calmly. Go, big brother. Don't worry about me. I'll plan everything on my own. But don't come back even if something happens to me, Lance said. Ning Shu, that alright, I'll listen to you. At least the current situation was good. She hadn't been captured and was being tortured every day. Her brother had also been marked by General Tobias. Even though she felt like both of them had their own plans, she didn't have to worry about her brother's safety. She should be worried about her own safety. Even though she had cultivated an exceptional martial arts technique, it was still inferior to a mecha. She was a human body, while mechas were made of metal and were made of metal. Even if she were to collide head-on, she would still be at a disadvantage. She had to forge a weapon or disguise herself as a mecha and get herself a cheap mecha. With a mecha and exceptional martial arts technique, she would be able to deal with some dangers. Tobias was very efficient, and the pass was quickly obtained. Ning Shu was ecstatic to receive the pass. With this, no matter where she went, even if she was in another empire, she would have proof of identity with this pass. She would be a good citizen and wouldn't have to worry about being searched. The pass was delivered by Tobias' subordinates. Aside from bringing them here, Tobias hadn't come here at all. However, Lance didn't mind at all. He did what he needed to do and used the artificial intelligence system in his room to understand everything. He was extremely carefree, and he didn't seem like a caged bird waiting for its owner to take care of it. These two were weird. After receiving the pass, Lance prepared a lot of things for Ning Shu. Even if something happened to the spaceship, they could still rely on the spaceship to survive the dangerous period. Drifting in the vast universe, perhaps a spaceship would pass by and be rescued. It was better than nothing. He prepared a lot of concentrated nutrient solutions. These nutrient solutions were slightly more expensive than normal ones, but they were also more resistant to hunger. After organizing a large bag of things, he placed them into a foldable box. The foldable box was very small, and it was constructed from a rare malleable metal. This box was quite expensive to make, but Lance didn't even bat an eyelid when he bought it. Ning Shu blinked. Her little brother had become a tycoon right under her nose. When Lance heard that she was going to leave, he thought about it for a moment before agreeing. Then he sent her away. She had a feeling that Lance was plotting something. Could it be that he was planning to run away again? With her around, it would be inconvenient for him to run away. Ning Shu asked, "Where did you get so much money?" Lance said, "That's all. She just paid me in advance." Ning Shu? "Fine, I don't understand what's going on between the two of you." Ning Shu didn't have a specific place to go, and she just wanted to leave this place. She didn't want to be implicated by Lance. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 29:16. The two brothers were about to go their separate ways. If Lance really had a plan, it would be better for them to leave one after the other. Ning Shu boarded the spaceship and waved at Lance. Lance waved back. Before leaving, Ning Shu washed himself a few times. His skin was wrinkled from soaking in the water. He sprayed some deodorant to get rid of the smell of EGA. He was afraid that there would be EGA on the spaceship and they would smell his scent. The spaceship started moving. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. He had gotten rid of the current plot. As for the future, he would have to depend on himself. Ning Shu was in his room. The conditions in the spaceship were quite good. It was expensive but comfortable. There was also a restaurant with food. There was still some time before they reached their destination. Ning Shu decided to take a nap. The spaceship was not bumpy at all. Ning Shu felt like he was sleeping at home. Human technology was developing rapidly. They could fly in the sky with their own strength. Ning Shu was thinking that if she had lived in such an era, even if she had cancer, she would have conquered it. Such interstellar planes were rare after all. After waking up, Ning Shu went to eat. He rubbed his knife and fork and was about to eat his steak. Ning Shu picked up the steak and was about to put it into his mouth when the spaceship shook. Ning Shu's throat was almost pierced by the fork. What's going on? Oh no, oh no. There are galactic pirates. There are interstellar pirates. We are surrounded by interstellar pirates. We are surrounded by interstellar pirate spaceships. It's really interstellar pirates? We are doomed, Ning Shu, interstellar pirates? What's going on? We are being robbed? His luck was really out of this world. The spaceship shook a few more times. It was being attacked by interstellar pirates' spaceships. Dear passengers, we are surrounded. We can only open the cabin door. Please take out your valuables to save your lives. The passengers wailed in despair. It was fine if they wanted valuables, but these pirates would kill. The galactic pirates boarded the spaceship and chased everyone to the restaurant. These galactic pirates were all wearing cool mechas. One look and anyone could tell that they were not to be trifled with. The leader of the group was a young man. He glanced at the people in the restaurant and sat on a chair with his feet on the table. He picked up a fork and started eating the steak on his plate. The way he ate was wild, especially when he was smacking his lips while eating. The whole restaurant was filled with the sound of him smacking his lips. The lackeys around them were all waiting for their boss to eat. Ning Shu glanced at him and realized that this boss was very fair and did not look like a galactic pirate at all. Interstellar pirates were notorious. They specialized in robbing spaceships, stealing money, and killing people. It was the same as robbing people on the road. In particular, some interstellar pirates were of such a large scale that their strength was comparable to that of the Empire. He would equip whatever good equipment he had. Seeing Ning Shu staring at him, the pirate threw his fork away and pointed at Ning Shu. "What are you looking at?" Of course, Ning Shu would not say, "I'm just looking at you." Ning Shu immediately lowered his head. The pirate did not argue and knocked on the table with his rod. "Be self-conscious and take out all your valuables. If you don't cooperate, then be careful of your own skin." Fuck, she only had a few valuable things, but they were all taken away. However, there were so many galactic pirates. It was a little difficult to fight them. Also, EJ took the initiative to stand up, the pirate said indifferently. He did not look fierce, but it was even more frightening. "Can't you smell if it's EJ?" Unless this pirate leader was not EJ. No one stood up. Obviously, there was no EJ on this spaceship. The pirate leader was a little disappointed and asked his subordinates to collect the valuables. Ning Shu's foldable suitcase was also taken away. She felt extremely stifled and her heart ached. There was food and clothes inside, but he was really poor now. The outside world was really dangerous. Since peerless martial arts didn't work, he would use spiritual power to attack. Ning Shu first used his spiritual power to attack the pirate leader. He twisted his spiritual power into a spiral, and the tip was very sharp. He directly stabbed at the pirate leader's forehead. The gigolo pirate leader immediately covered his head and groaned. However, he reacted quickly and used his spiritual power to counterattack. However, Ning Shu's spiritual power had already retreated. Those who could operate mechas were all people with strong spiritual power. In the galaxy, spiritual power was divided into levels. If he had known, he would have gotten himself a mecha. Unfortunately, he did not have money. The cost of mechas was too expensive. Lance was also very helpless about this. "Who the fuck is attacking me with spiritual power? Stand up." The gigolo's face darkened. "How about I kill a person in 10 seconds until they stand up?" Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck, I thought I could destroy his spiritual power in one attack and make him lose his mobility. I didn't expect this guy's spiritual power to be so strong." The pirate leader went crazy and wanted to kill a person in 10 seconds. Everyone in the restaurant was terrified. They hugged their heads and looked at the people beside them. Who was it? Who was it? Everyone was shocked and angry. Who would be so stupid to anger the pirate leader? They did not know if someone had really attacked or if the pirate leader was looking for an excuse to kill someone. The timid people actually trembled and cried. 10, 9, 2. The gigolo pirate leader started counting down. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Your math is really going to kill a physical education teacher." Ning Shu stood up and said, "It was me who attacked him." The pirate leader looked at Ning Shu. "You really have guts. You actually dared to attack me." Ning Shu said, "Actually, I've admired pirates for a long time. I didn't expect to be lucky enough to see them today. I wanted to see if the pirates were as strong as the legends said. Now that I've seen you today, You really live up to your reputation. Prince, no boss, this guy said he admires you, a pirate said to the gigolo. Ning Shu suddenly heard, Prince, but it was fleeting. He seemed to have heard wrongly. The gigolo coughed. Don't think that I'll let you go just because you said something nice. You're going to die too. Ning Shu was silent. She only wanted her foldable box back. It contained all her belongings. At this moment, a pirate ran over in a panic and said to the gigolo, Boss, bad news. A spaceship is coming. It seems to be the army. Fuck, they're here so soon. Count yourselves lucky. The gigolo was about to run away with the things he plundered. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Ning Shu immediately caught up with the pirate leader and said, I really admire space pirates. Let me join. You're not qualified. You don't have the right to join. If you keep talking, I'll kill you. The gigolo's face darkened. It was as if he was worried that the army was coming and was in a hurry to leave. Ning Shu said sincerely, Please accept me. These people had given themselves away. They were not sure if there was an army outside. They were just looking for an excuse to leave. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 29:17. Ning Shu's face was filled with joy as he asked Consort Xian, Have you seen a royal doctor? Consort Xian's pale face flushed red as she said, Qinxia hasn't seen a royal doctor. I thought it was because the weather was too hot and my spleen and stomach weren't feeling well. Also, Qinxia's period has always been messy, so I didn't pay much attention. BSP, the weather is so hot. You should find a royal doctor to get some pills to stimulate the appetite and strengthen the spleen, Ning Shu said with a smile. The royal doctor quickly came and took Consort Xian's pulse. Then Ning Shu said, Empress, Consort Xian is already 1 month pregnant. That's great. The emperor finally has a child. Ning Shu smiled and said to Consort Xian, From today onwards, you have to take care of the baby. You can't make any mistakes. The child you give birth to is the emperor's eldest son, so there can't be any mistakes. From today onwards, I will eat, live, and sleep with you until the child is born. The harem needs a child too much. The emperor isn't young anymore, Ning Shu said casually. Consort Xian was dumbfounded. Then she said, Empress, Qinxia doesn't want to trouble you. Ning Shu waved his hand. From today onwards, the most important matter in the harem is Consort Xian's dragon fetus. Give birth to the dragon fetus at all costs. If anyone's hands stretch too far, I don't mind cutting them off. Ning Shu's sharp gaze flashed across everyone present. The concubines were all frightened by Ning Shu's sharp gaze. They all bowed and said, Qinxia obeys. You can all leave. Consort Xian, stay. Ning Shu waved his hand. The concubines all left. Consort Xian rubbed her stomach and looked at Ning Shu with a bit of fear. Extinguish all the incense in the room, Ning Shu said to she. She immediately used water to extinguish the incense in the incense burner and then opened the window. Although I don't know if the incense is harmful, it's better not to light it. In the future, don't light it in your hall, Ning Shu said to Consort Xian. Imperial concubine Xian nodded. Qinxia will remember. This consort wasn't joking when she said that we would eat and live together. Don't think that I would do anything to you, said Ning Shu. This concubine really doesn't dare to trouble the empress. This concubine is deeply afraid. Concubine Xian's jade nose was dripping with sweat. Don't talk about these useless things. This empress won't do anything to you. On the contrary, this empress wants to protect the child in your belly. Right now, everyone in the court, including the emperor, thinks that this empress is immoral. If you lose your child, do you think this empress will have a good ending? This empress will be frank with you today. You must have this child. Consort Xian bowed. Thank you, concubine, but it's just living and eating together. It's not a big deal. From today onwards, I'll live with you in your palace. Ning Shu said to she, just pack some clothes. Nyang nyang. She was somewhat disapproving. The empress was living in the concubine's palace. Go. After that, Ning Shu moved to concubine Xian's Weiyang Palace. He had people carefully inspect everything in Weiyang Palace, including some antiques, calligraphy, paintings, jewelry, rouge, and some clothes. He also had the Tan family find a female doctor who knew medicine into the palace. He also found a servant girl who knew martial arts. The female doctor and the servant girl who knew martial arts were all there to protect concubine Xian. With Ning Shu, there was a high chance that they could protect the child in concubine Xian's belly. Concubine Xian stared dumbfoundedly at the swift and decisive Ning Shu. In a short period of time, her palace had changed its appearance. Ning Shu tilted his head and followed concubine Xian's instructions. Concubine Xian, don't wear too much makeup when you're pregnant. It's not good for the child and it's easy to fall into a trap. This concubine will listen to the empress. Concubine Xian could only say helplessly. But looking at the empress, it didn't seem like she wanted to harm the child in her belly. The feeling of sharing a bed with the empress at night was wonderful. The empress's hand was placed on her belly and gently stroked it. It really made one's hair stand on end. But every time before eating, a female doctor would first check all the dishes, including the bowls and chopsticks. After checking, the empress would eat first and then let her eat. Concubine Xian's current goal was to give birth to the child first. No matter if it was a boy or a girl, it would be the emperor's first child. The emperor would definitely have special feelings for it. When Ao Tianzi heard that a concubine in the harem was pregnant, anger immediately appeared between his brows. Although he had someone serve the empress in his place, she was pregnant now and these concubines still looked happy. Ao Tianzi wanted to chop the pregnant concubine. You know what to do, right? Ao Tianzi looked at the secret guard kneeling in front of him. The secret guard said yes and then said hesitantly, the empress will eat and live with concubine Xian. So what if the empress is pregnant? Let her do it. Ao Tianzi said. It was a good time to do it. The empress brought a female doctor from the Tan family and a servant girl who knows a little martial arts. It's not easy to do it. The secret guard said, every meal will be checked. Heh, this empress is really responsible. Ao Tianzi rubbed his brows and stood up. He was going to Weiyang Palace. Since she was pregnant, he should reward her with something. When Ao Tianzi arrived at Weiyang Palace, he was greeted by two women. Ning Shu smiled and said to Ao Tianzi, Emperor, concubine Xian is pregnant. After 10 months, she will give birth to a prince. This concubine congratulates the emperor. Ning Shu clearly saw Ao Tianzi's eyebrows tremble. Concubine Xian seemed to be in high spirits. She placed her hand on her waist and acted like a pregnant woman. She slightly stuck out her belly and shouted to Ao Tianzi, Emperor. Ao Tianzi glanced at concubine Xian's belly. My beloved concubine, you have suffered. These things are bestowed to you by me. Use them well. I hope that my beloved concubine will still be beautiful when you are pregnant. Thank you, Emperor. Concubine Xian smiled as she looked at the things that the palace servants were holding. There were rouge, face powder, luxurious jewelry, and some strange and interesting things. Ning Shu narrowed her eyes slightly and said with a smile, Rest assured, Emperor. This concubine will definitely protect the dragon fetus and let concubine Xian give birth to a healthy dragon heir. This concubine will definitely give sister concubine Xian a happy pregnancy and give birth to a smart child, Ning Shu said without generosity. She even had a joyful expression on her face, as if she was pregnant herself. Thank you, Empress. The Empress has her own pepper palace and doesn't need to live in Weiyang Palace, Ao Tianzi said. This concubine doesn't suffer, not at all. As long as sister concubine Xian can give birth to a dragon heir, this concubine will be satisfied. Rest assured, Emperor. This concubine will definitely take good care of sister concubine Xian and not let anything happen to her. Ning Shu looked like a patriotic and generous mother of the nation. Ao Tianzi clenched his hand under his long robe and said with relief, You are really my good empress. Ning Shu smiled. This concubine is duty-bound. Congratulations, Emperor, you are going to be a father. BSP. Chapter 29:18. Ning Shu listened to the meatball-like king's mumbling and nagging. He kept saying, he felt like O was some kind of rare treasure that everyone wanted. Diamonds were treasures, But they didn't treat O as a person. They wouldn't even consider a person's wishes. O wasn't that lucky. It was just like a beautiful woman that everyone fought over. As for this beautiful woman, who cared about how you felt in your heart? The client was just AB. In a way, he was much luckier than his younger brother. However, Ning Shu was surprised that the king was so different from his own son. Had there been a genetic mutation? Otherwise, how could he have such a slender and fair son? This isn't O. Why did you bring it back and waste our food? The king didn't like Ning Shu. Ning Shu. The old man's attitude changed too quickly. The galactic pirate prince pulled his father to the side and said that this guy found out that they were disguised as galactic pirates and couldn't let him go. Then hurry up and lock him up. This guy can't think of destroying our business. The king immediately looked at Ning Shu with his pea-sized eyes. His eyes were filled with murderous intent even though he tried his best to widen them. Although he tried his best to open them, his eyes were still very small. Ning Shu said, "Don't even think about killing me. I have a background. There's a pass in my box." Son, it's all the more reason to kill someone with a background. Ning Shu, actually, I'm just talking nonsense. I'm a very poor person. In order to get my box back, I followed the galactic pirates here. I admire galactic pirates. I want to become a citizen of the Empire. Ning Shu's face was serious. The fat king, son, is there something wrong with this person? Let's discuss when to go to school in the Federation. The king's biggest wish was for his son to find an EGA and give birth to the best heir for the empire. Although the empire was poor and had nothing, they still needed an heir to inherit the planet. The prince was helpless and asked his subordinates to take his grieving father away. It was really unbearable to have such a loving father. The prince said to Ning Shu, "Let me show you around. Although you keep saying that you admire the star pirates, you act like you don't agree with them." Ning Shu followed behind him and sized up the planet. It could be said that this planet was really barren. There weren't many weeds, and there were very few trees and shrubs. Large tracts of land are left uncultivated. Although it was already the interstellar era, one could still rely on farming for a living. This was especially so in the technological era. Plant seeds had been modified and could be suitable for many types of soil. The prince shook his head and said, "That won't do. This kind of saline alkali soil covers the entire planet, and it's especially serious. Basically, all crops can't survive there. Especially when the planet has the largest group of volcanoes. These volcanoes erupt from time to time. If you cultivate them at this time, the magma will directly swallow them up. Even if a normal commoner builds a house, they'll build a simple house to live in. It's built especially well and beautiful. When the lava flows past, everything will change. When our ancestors migrated into the universe, they were slow to act. Plus, they weren't very strong, so they got a planet like this, and it's a relatively barren place. If they hide here, they'll get weaker and weaker. They don't have the strength to look for new planets, so they won't be able to survive. They used all the money and resources of the country to contact interstellar merchants who sell weapons, bought battleships and mechas, and started on this path. If they don't do this, the people of the country won't be able to survive. Ning Shu didn't say anything. It was really hard to judge whether this was right or wrong. But why are you telling me this? Someone who had nothing to do with him actually told him all this. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that he had no choice but to find a reason for his robbery in order to survive? The prince said, "I don't want you to misunderstand." Ning Shu thought, "Huh? Misunderstand what?" The prince stared at Ning Shu with his sparkling eyes, which made Ning Shu's hair stand on end. "Don't tell me you've fallen for me. How long had it been?" Thinking about how this was a world of stewed meat, all feelings came from the body, not the feelings in the heart. The prince quickly waved his hand. "That's not it. I smell EGA on you. I don't want the EGA you know to misunderstand me." Ning Shu was speechless. Hadn't he been scrubbing for a long time? His skin was wrinkled from the blisters, and he could still smell it. Ning Shu suspected that he was AO. Otherwise, why would there be a smell? However, he was sure that he was a B because he had spent time with his brother in the past and had never thought of pouncing on him. Ning Shu's face was cold. I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't be so poor. You can really smell it? It's very, very shallow. Ordinary people can't smell it, but I can smell it a little. The prince scratched his head and said shyly, Can you introduce it to us? We've never met before, and you're using us. Looking for EJ was nothing more than having a child, regardless of whether the EJ was a boy or a girl. Ning Shu grinned. I do have an EJ brother. He glanced at the prince, who stuck out his tongue like a pug and looked at Ning Shu expectantly. Then please introduce your brother to me, brother-in-law. Ning Shu was speechless. He's already been marked. You're late. Ning Shu smiled. Are you sure you want to snatch someone from a powerful empire general? Just the crime of pretending to be a galactic pirate is enough to make everyone on this planet suffer. The prince didn't mind at all and said confidently, Don't worry, I'll find a way to remove the mark. We have a method passed down from our ancestors. The prince held Ning Shu's hand and called out affectionately, Brother-in-law, thank you. Ning Shu trembled. Brother-in-law? Shaking off the prince's hand, Ning Shu didn't want to say anything, but the prince chased after Ning Shu and asked, Brother-in-law, when are we going to look for O? We're family from now on. Brother-in-law, just treat this as your home. The empire may be poor, but I'll go to the Federal Academy to work hard and give him a good life in the future. He felt that the prince was like his father, a chatterbox who couldn't stop once he started talking. This enthusiasm was really unbearable. Ning Shu interrupted his beautiful imagination of the future. Take me to the volcanoes to see. Generally speaking, there were good things in strange places. Brother-in-law, why are you going to the volcanoes? The prince asked. Brother-in-law, your head. Who allowed you to call me that? He suddenly felt like he had a daughter in his family, and he even wanted to please his brother. I've never seen a volcano. I'll go take a look. He wanted to see if there was a world's origin. Chapter 29:19. Brother-in-law, this is a group of volcanoes. They are all alive and can erupt at any time, spewing magma. If it weren't for the fact that the Empire doesn't have the ability to move to other planets, we wouldn't be living here. But don't worry, brother-in-law. If I have a bite to eat, I'll give it all to your brother. Brother-in-law, you're unilaterally establishing such a relationship. Did I agree? Even if I did, Lance wouldn't listen to me. Lance is a child with strong ideas. Even if you want to migrate, there's no place to migrate. All the known planets have owners. Even migrating was laborious and eating was a problem. Of course, they didn't have the money to find a new planet. Brother-in-law, although the situation isn't very good, we can take it slowly, the prince said. Ning Shu approached the volcano. The volcano was surrounded by thick volcanic ash, and it was obvious that magma was raging around it. The temperature was extremely high, causing the surrounding air to distort. The more it was like this, the more likely it was that there was the source of the world. Brother-in-law, don't go over. If you fall in, the temperature of the magma can melt the mech. The prince saw that Ning Shu was still climbing up and immediately advised him. Ning Shu said, It's okay, I'm just taking a look. After climbing to the top, Ning Shu was so hot that he was about to be cooked. He released his spiritual power to scan the situation underground. Ning Shu choked on the thick smoke. The magma was extremely thick and bubbling. It released a large amount of sulfide, which was especially smelly. It made one's tears fall uncontrollably. The magma was too thick, making it difficult for spiritual power to invade. Especially when spiritual power was shuttling through the magma, it felt like it was scalding. Brother-in-law, come down quickly. If you cause the magma to become restless, the prince shouted, worried about Ning Shu. If you die, how are you going to find EJ? Especially when your brother died in front of him, EJ will ignore him even more. Ning Shu felt that her spiritual ball had been scalded red. It was boiling hot and was spinning in circles in her sea of consciousness. It was as if her butt was on fire. This feeling was like fishing for copper coins in a pot of oil with her bare hands. It was hot. Ning Shu didn't give up. He kept using his spiritual power to scan the magma again and again. Such a large group of volcanoes, There must be a world origin, but there was no world origin. It should also give birth to something good. Unfortunately, she couldn't restrain her spiritual power, and the spiritual ball was so hot that it hurt her head. Ning Shu gave up for the time being and waited for the mental sphere to cool down before returning. Brother-in-law, what are you looking for? Give up. This planet is not suitable for farming, and there are no rare metal deposits. We've checked every part of this planet, hoping that there will be mineral deposits that will make life easier for the Empire. But no. Ning Shu nodded. The magma was too thick, and he couldn't probe it with his spiritual force. Moreover, he didn't know how thick the magma was. She decided to rest for a while before coming back to take a look. There must be something good inside that she hadn't discovered yet. He didn't believe that such a large group of volcanoes wouldn't have anything good. Even a piece of flame essence would be good. The prince's AI informed him to hurry home, and his father was already urging him. Brother-in-law, you should come back with me. Ning Shu shook his head. No need, I'll stay here. Can you return the box to me? With the box, he could set up a tent here and rest for a while before continuing his investigation. In a situation like this, ordinary high-tech equipment wouldn't be able to detect it. The temperature was too high, and it was easy for the equipment to malfunction. It was even more impossible to throw the equipment directly into the magma. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to see anything. How can I do it here? Brother-in-law, let's go back. The prince dragged Ning Shu away. Ning Shu rolled his eyes helplessly. You're really mistaken. Don't tell me you really think that you can win over Lance just by pleasing her? Not only Lance, but also General Tobias. He brought his troops over and directly flattened this planet. Son, the Locke Empire sent over some good news. They said that General Tobias is getting married and invited all the empires to attend the ceremony. I heard that General Tobias' other half is an EGA. My God, why is it so easy for him to find an EGA? Son, you should go to the bigger empires. The chances of encountering an O are higher there. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows in surprise. Tobias was getting married to Lance? What happened while she was away? This kind of marriage was a public announcement. It was General Tobias announcing to everyone who his other half was. Although General Tobias was very powerful, he also had enemies and political enemies. On the other hand, his other half was the weako. It was very likely that people would target Lance to attack Tobias. All the empires sent out invitations through the interstellar network, and Lance became famous. Ning Shu scratched his head. What was Lance thinking? He wouldn't run away during the wedding, right? Or was he in a hurry to get married because he was pregnant? However, in reality, marriage wasn't very important in this era. It didn't matter even if you were pregnant. They wouldn't mock you because you were pregnant. Instead, they would make a contribution to the empire's population. This was especially true for O, whose children were all very outstanding and powerful. It was precisely because the concept of marriage had become diluted that this kind of solemn and traditional marriage seemed especially sincere. The prince didn't feel much about the marriage. He said to Ning Shu, "That's great. We can go together. We can also find our brother." Ning Shu, "If you really want to go to the wedding, you'll see my brother." The prince asked his subordinate to bring Ning Shu's box over. After a while, the subordinate handed the box over to Ning Shu. The prince then solemnly handed the box over to Ning Shu. This is all a misunderstanding. We're all on the same side now. Ning Shu, the Fat King, was confused. Why was his son trying to curry favor with AO? He could either kill him or scram. Ning Shu carried the box to the side of the volcano and set up a small tent to rest. Although the prince repeatedly asked him to stay, Ning Shu didn't stay in the palace. He warned the prince, "My brother has already been marked. You should give up." The prince, "It's okay. I have a way." Ning Shu, "The person who marked my brother has a high position and power." The prince, "Don't worry. I won't let anyone hurt my brother. Even if he has a high position and power, I'm not weak either. He might not be able to win against me one-on-one." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Why would he want to fight you one-on-one if he can gang up on you? The prince, "Actually, I don't dare to hog the O too much. I just want to have a child." Ning Shu, you want to do it with my brother, have a child, and then leave with the child? The prince nodded. Ning Shu felt that his worldview had been challenged. Do you think it's that easy to have a child? Even though the O is easy to get pregnant, it's still a very painful thing to have a child. Chapter 29:20. Ning Shu sneered. Could it be that the empire can only be managed by A's? As a person who was easily attracted to O and lost his mind, B was clearly the best management talent. At least he wouldn't be affected by a mere pheromone. The prince scratched his head. My father asks me to find an O every day and give birth to an excellent heir. What's so good about inheriting a broken planet like yours? Do you have gold or silver mines? Even food and drink are problems. It was the same as being poor and desperately trying to give birth to a son. B is too mediocre. His physical fitness and IQ are far from A's. No one is perfect. If he's careless in choosing an heir, the empire will really be finished. Ning Shu just said, I hope you get what you want. After setting up the tent, Ning Shu lay down to rest. He was really a little tired. There was dead silence around the volcanoes. There were no animals and no people came. It was like 1,000 mountains with no birds flying and 10,000 paths with no traces of people. The spiritual ball in Ning Shu's consciousness was bright red like a piece of red-hot iron. When Ning Shu touched the spiritual ball, there seemed to be sparks falling. Stimulating the spiritual ball was very painful. Since the spiritual ball was red-hot, he had to temper it like he was tempering iron. However, the spiritual ball hurt as soon as he stimulated it. Ning Shu endured the pain and tempered the spiritual ball over and over again. At first, he was very gentle, slowly stimulating it, then slightly increasing it. The heated spiritual ball became smaller and smaller under Ning Shu's stimulation. It was previously the size of a fist, but now it was the size of a ping-pong ball. What was going on? Why was it getting smaller and smaller? Was it really like iron? The more he tempered it, the smaller it became until it was refined iron? Were there no impurities in the spiritual power? When the spiritual ball was squeezed by the heart earlier, it returned to its original state and became a little stronger. Now it was smaller again. The spiritual ball's temperature also slowly dropped. Floating in the sea of consciousness was a shining silver spiritual ball. It was very bright and looked very shiny from different angles. The reflection of the light was very beautiful. The silver was clean. Although it had shrunk, Ning Shu felt that there were fewer impurities in her spiritual ball. It was much more compact and solid. The spirit sphere was not that easy to shatter. This is a good thing, I didn't expect it to have such an effect. Ning Shu hurriedly used his spiritual force and continued to scan the magma. Not only could he search for the world's origin, but he could also refine his spiritual sphere. After a round of tempering, his mental strength had become much stronger, and he could now control and release it freely. Furthermore, the penetrative power of his mental strength had also become stronger, allowing him to scan deeper than before. Of course, the spiritual ball still turned red from the heat. Although the heat was unbearable and made him tear up and snot, Ning Shu still persevered. When the spiritual ball turned red from the heat, Ning Shu began to forge again. After repeating the process several times, the ping-pong ball became even smaller and purer. His mental strength had become stronger. Even if he couldn't find the world's origin, such a harvest was worth it. Now that the spiritual sphere was tough, even if someone attacked her spiritual sphere, they might be injured instead. Since fire had such an effect, then should she go to Fire City more often in the future and use the temperature of Fire City to refine the spiritual sphere? As his mental power grew stronger, he could penetrate deeper into the lava. Even so, he still couldn't find the bottom. The situation of this planet was a little bad. If the magma continued to churn like this, it would one day penetrate the planet, and this planet would be uninhabitable. He didn't know how deep the magma was. Ning Shu looked for things while refining his spiritual force. Occasionally, the prince would give Ning Shu something to please his brother-in-law. Ning Shu said that he had food to eat, and there was food in the box. He didn't need to give it to him, and he could give it to his people. The prince held Ning Shu with a touched expression. "Brother-in-law, you're really a good person. I believe that your brother must be a good person too." Ning Shu: "Sorry, my brother and I aren't good people. General Tobias' wedding ceremony is about to begin. We should also set off for the Lock Empire." The prince wanted to bring Ning Shu along so that he could find his brother. Ning Shu was also a little speechless. She had only left for a short while, and now she had to go back? She felt that Lance sent her away on purpose. Why would she go back? Would she get in Lance's way and affect his plans? Ning Shu felt that if she said that General Tobias' wedding partner was her brother, the prince would definitely blow her to smithereens with a battleship. Most importantly, she didn't have a spaceship, so she couldn't leave this planet. It seemed that it was time to run. "Okay, let's go together. I have to study the volcanoes now." Even if she went back, she could just find an opportunity to slip away. After all, she had a pass, so she could go anywhere. The prince hummed a little tune and left in satisfaction. Ning Shu's daily routine was to refine his spiritual sphere and use his spiritual force to explore the magma. He had already explored 50 meters deep. Damn, if all the magma gushed out, it would definitely flood 1/3 of the planet's surface. This wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was that the surface of the planet would be penetrated by the magma day and night. Ning Shu tempered his spirit ball as if he was hammering iron. The spiritual sphere had already been refined from the size of a ping-pong ball to the size of a thumb. It seemed that he had reached his limit. Using and refining the spiritual sphere continuously was painful and tiring. Ning Shu took a nap and rested for a while before releasing his spiritual force again. This time, he really explored to the bottom. There were round red beads at the bottom of the magma. He didn't know what these beads were, but they were bright red. They were full of heat. Even if they weren't the origin of the world, they were still good stuff. However, this magma was so deep that it would be burned to ashes before it could even reach the bottom. Nothing would be left behind. This wouldn't do. At this time, he could only rely on his spiritual force to retrieve the beads. However, the longer his spiritual force stayed in the magma, the more painful it would be. Hence, he had to be quick. Ning Shu controlled his spiritual force, and it was very difficult for him to pick up the beads. He was a little dizzy and couldn't pick up the beads after several attempts. Also, the spiritual sphere had a cooldown time. The prince had already urged Ning Shu several times to leave quickly, or he wouldn't make it in time. The distance between the planets was a little far, and it would take a lot of time to fly. Ning Shu just said to wait a little longer. He had taken 99 steps and was about to get the beads. He couldn't just leave like this. The prince sighed. "It would be great if you were you love this planet so much and can't bear to leave. We can definitely live happily together." Ning Shu: "Why did it have to be EGA? Were they so superficial that they only cared if the other party was Chapter 29-21. She didn't love this planet, but she didn't want to give up until she got what she wanted. 1 second. A wonderful novel with no pop-up window to read for free. He wondered if the volcanoes would become extinct if he took away these beads. Since they had become extinct volcanoes, the soil around the volcanoes was suitable for growing things. The volcanic ash was rich in all kinds of minerals. Therefore, he treated it as a good thing. Ning Shu had to take out the red beads inside. Moreover, these beads were a big gain. The prince went to prepare the things for the trip and asked Ning Shu to leave quickly. He probably really treated Ning Shu as his brother-in-law. His words were affectionate, and he urged Ning Shu to hurry up as if he was one of them. Ning Shu was speechless. "What should I do? I already told you that your brother was marked, and the person who marked him had a high position." Ning Shu began to fish for the beads. After working for half a day, his eyelids were swollen from the sulfide-rich volcanic smoke. Finally, he fished out a red bead. This bead was fished out. It was red, and the huge heat caused the surrounding air to distort. Ning Shu's face was also steamed red. His cheeks were red. Such a high temperature was troublesome. Ning Shu simply put it back into the system space. If he carried it with him, it might cause the spaceship to crash. Ning Shu was afraid that after his mission was completed, He would return to the system space to take a look and find that everything in the system space had been roasted. He didn't know if he could throw it into the law of nothingness. Ning Shu scooped up all the pearls and counted that there were 15 of them. With a black face and roasted hair, Ning Shu packed up the tent and stuffed it into a box. He could leave the planet. After washing up, Ning Shu and the prince were on their way to the wedding banquet. Before leaving, the fat king used his chubby hand to grab his son's hand. As he stroked him, he said, "Son, study hard and try to find Nti. I'll wait for your triumphant return in the empire. Son, do your best. Don't worry, I'll definitely find an Ning Shu, maybe I can get it back." Ning Shu and the prince boarded the warship. After all, he is the prince of an empire. He needs a few attendants by his side so that he won't be looked down upon by others. Everyone had a cool mech on them. Those who didn't know better would think that they were rich. The speed of the warship was extremely fast and stable. Ning Shu was looking forward to it, hoping that it would be safe this time. The prince said to Ning Shu, "Brother-in-law, we're all on the same side. Don't tell anyone about our planet. It's not easy for everyone to live. I only steal things, I don't kill people." Ning Shu clicked his tongue twice. "For a poor person like me, robbing my things is no different from taking my life." The prince nudged Ning Shu with his shoulder. "Don't say that. Didn't you say that your brother was marked by someone powerful? Why are you still so poor?" "That's my brother's mark, not mine." Ning Shu rolled her eyes. The prince hesitated for a moment before saying, "Brother-in-law, just tell me who marked your brother so that I can be mentally prepared." Ning Shu said, "You'll know when the time comes. I'll introduce him to you." "All right, what's your name?" "Hardy." "Hardy? An idiot? Does Hardy?" "Oh, Hardy." Ning Shu felt that Hardy's father was a scammer. How long had she been gone? Why was she back again? Even if she was back, she wouldn't go see Lance. Who knew how many dangers Lance was facing right now? She would be courting death if she went over. Thus, when she reached the main planet of the Locke Empire, she ditched Hardy and left. Right? Since Tobias and Lance are getting married, then Colonel Heller should be there too. If he didn't come now, when would he come to cause trouble? Ning Shu felt that it was time for revenge. The red bead could finally be put to good use. He didn't believe that a mecha could fly in such high temperatures. The flight was very boring, especially since there was nothing on the battleship. There wasn't even any snacks. When they were hungry, they had to drink nutrient fluids. After drinking, everyone stared at each other. There were also some who let go of their restraints and went to have sex in 2s and 3s. There was nothing better to pass the time, especially in this world filled with the aroma of meat. Ning Shu was practicing his spiritual power, expanding his sea of consciousness, and strengthening his spiritual power. This time, he would go back and test how long he could build a spatial tunnel. Ning Shu saw Hardy staring at him and said, "Aren't you going to have fun?" This kind of thing was common. "No, I'm going to give my body to your brother." Ning Shu was speechless. "As long as you're happy. When the time comes, it will definitely be a bolt from the blue." Ning Shu was a little suspicious. Did Hardy meet Lance during the robbery? Did he kidnap Lance back to the planet to give birth to his child? He heard that Lance had a way to destroy the previous A's pheromone and replace it with a new O. The more Ning Shu thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Maybe this person was also Lance's subordinate, so she brought the person who had a relationship with Lance over. Ning Shu touched his forehead and sighed. Te was so popular. Especially with the strong. "Come, let's fight." After flying for a while, they finally arrived at the main planet before the wedding. The Locke Empire was powerful to begin with, and the surrounding star systems were all part of the Empire's territory. The main planet was very prosperous and sci-fi. Because of the wedding of the Empire's strongest person, General Tobias, the main planet was even more crowded and prosperous. The most direct manifestation was that there was no place to stay. Even if there was a place to stay, it was very expensive. Poor people like them could only sleep on the streets. Hardy and his son were heartbroken when they came to attend the wedding. They finally managed to gather a gift, but now there was no place to stay. They were heartbroken. The prince looked at the main planet and thought about his own planet. It was as poor as a ravine and undeveloped. He felt a little sad. Brother-in-law, let's go find my younger brother first. I can't wait to see him. He could also solve the accommodation problem. The battleship was parked outside the main planet, so he couldn't even stay in the spaceship. It was driving him to death. He was beginning to suspect that General Tobias' marriage was an attempt to increase the Empire's income and increase its consumption, thereby contributing to the Empire's GDP. Ning Shu sighed. I want to tell you something. You have to stay calm. Tell me. As long as his younger brother wasn't going to marry General Tobias, the prince felt that he could fight for it. Ning Shu coughed and said in a low voice, My younger brother is the Ide who's going to marry General Tobias soon. The prince was a little stunned. This was impossible. There couldn't be such a coincidence. You're kidding, right? If your younger brother is going to become General Tobias' partner, why are you still running around? Don't you want to enjoy life with him? Are you trying to reject me like this? Chapter 29-22. Hardy's face said, I'm not listening, I don't believe you're lying to me. How could your little brother be General Tobias' other half? Hardy rejected without even thinking about it. Ning Shu said, What do you mean? Are you looking down on me or my brother? I already told you that my brother has been marked. Why don't you believe me? Hardy asked, What evidence do you have? What evidence could he have? Of course, he had to contact Lance and tell him that he was back. Lance knew that his brother had come back, so he gave Ning Shu an address and told him to go there. Ning Shu brought Hardy to the place Lance specified. He arrived not long after, keeping a low profile. Lance was stunned when he saw Hardy. He blurted out, Hardy? You know me, you're what a nice smell. Hardy had an intoxicated expression on his face. Lance pushed away Hardy, who was sniffing his body. Ning Shu asked, Lance, how do you know Hardy? What was certain was that Lance had always been living with his client and had never left the Empire. How could he know Hardy, who made a living by robbing? This was impossible. Furthermore, he blurted out Hardy's name, so it was obviously Hardy. Ning Shu did not think that Hardy was so famous that even Lance knew him. He looked at Lance suspiciously. Lance was very calm. Brother, I'm Lance. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. He suspected that Lance was reborn or could foresee the future. Hardy was very excited to meet him. He tried his best to calm himself down and put on an elegant look as he introduced himself. Hello, my name is Hardy. I'm a prince and a powerful A. I heard from brother-in-law that you're going to marry General Tobias. Is that true? Lance replied, It's true. Hardy looked at him with a broken heart. Why can't you wait for me? Why are you in such a hurry? Do you hate that we didn't meet before we got married? Like his greasy father, Hardy grabbed Lance's little hand and stroked it. Lance, I like you. Why don't we elope? Lance withdrew his hand expressionlessly and said to Ning Shu, Brother, the main planet is a bit dangerous recently. You can either leave here or hide well. And don't show up at my wedding. Ning Shu nodded. He was a little suspicious about the purpose of this wedding. Ning Shu asked worriedly, Will you be okay? Don't worry, General Tobias will protect me, Lance replied. Ning Shu was a little perplexed by General Tobias' intentions. Theoretically speaking, all of the guests attending the wedding were either rich or powerful, and there were many of them. Pulling their A's partner to hold a wedding, that smell can make the A's present become restless. Generally speaking, if there was a Type A exclusive pet, they would keep it in secret and would not announce it to the world. Lance was currently in danger. Perhaps he had some sort of deal with General Tobias? Ning Shu scratched his head. This guy was either reborn or a mission enforcer. It was quite clear that Lance was no longer the Lance that he used to be. Ning Shu stared at Hardy's stomach and asked, Are you pregnant? Hardy was petrified upon hearing that he was getting married, and upon hearing that he was pregnant, he immediately melted into dust. How cruel was the heavens? Why did he have to marry someone he liked in the end? Lance shook his head. I'm not pregnant, don't worry. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. Things were more likely to go wrong if Lance was pregnant. His constitution was already weak to begin with, and it would be even worse if he got pregnant. Do you have any plans to tell me? I know what to do, and I definitely won't get in your way. Regardless of whether this Lance was the original Lance or not, their goals were the same. Ning Shu pulled Lance to the side and asked in a quiet voice. Lance replied, General Tobias' situation is not good right now. What does that have to do with the wedding? It was such a big event, and it didn't look bad at all. Instead, it felt like they were plotting against someone. The Empire is currently investigating General Tobias, and he's not in a good situation. There are several powers trying to drag him down, Lance replied. Ning Shu nodded upon hearing this. General Tobias' status was indeed very high, but the higher one stood, the more they had to be careful. If they fell, it would be like falling into the 18 levels of hell, and they would never be able to recover. Is it because he's too powerful? Ning Shu asked. General Tobias was a powerful being of the Empire, and he was a general who was renowned throughout the Empire. He was an indomitable existence who protected the Empire. Was he going to kill such a powerful being? Even if it was for the sake of the Empire, he had to bear with it. Lance replied, The Empire has some powers, but they're nothing to be afraid of. They're powers from the outside. With General Tobias around, they're concerned about the interests and decisions of some people. Is it the Federation? Ning Shu asked. Lance nodded lightly. I'm also involved in this. Do you still remember Colonel Heller of the Federation? You don't have much of an impact. It's just a small matter among these conflicts. But what does this have to do with a grand wedding? I don't know much about this. Either you don't show up, or you leave. Lance handed some money to Ning Shu. Ning Shu accepted the money and told Lance to be careful. No matter what the situation was, his own life was more important than anything else. It looked like Lance really was making a deal with General Tobias. However, Lance was slowly realizing his dream of being on equal footing with General Tobias. She had thought that this would be a very difficult mission. After all, her status and power made it seem like an extremely difficult mission. However, her little brother abandoned her and went off to hunt monsters on his own. Go, 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 it's dangerous here, go wherever you want. What was with this inexplicable disappointment? She had thought that this was a child that needed her protection, but it turned out that this child had his own plans. Holy shit, this little brother of hers is so smart. Ning Shu felt proud of him. In any case, it didn't matter anymore. The client's wish was both simple and complex. He should be happy that his little brother had his own career. Ning Shu patted Hardy, who was drawing circles in the corner. I've already proven that he's my little brother. You should find someone else. It's impossible between you two. Hardy turned around, and his eyes were a little red. I like your little brother. I fell in love with him at first sight, and I'll never change my mind. Ning Shu. No, brother, you have to believe me. It's all because of the pheromone. Ning Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. No, brother-in-law, you have to believe me. If your little brother isn't I'll still love him. Ning Shu, no, if he isn't you won't even look at him. I already said that it's the pheromone that made you pay attention to him. No, that's definitely not the case. The pheromone only made me fall in love with him faster. Even without the pheromone, I would still fall in love with him. It's just a matter of time. Ning Shu. Chapter 29-23. Ning Shu warned Hardy, don't do anything rash. Be careful or you'll turn into AB. The most important thing was to not cause any trouble for Lance. Hardy's face was filled with sadness. The person I like is getting married to someone else, and you're doing this? Are you going to let me be sad? Hurry up. Ning Shu pursed his lips and said, don't attend the wedding. Go and study. When you're strong, the school will give you a wife, and she'll be a... Really? Hardy's eyes lit up. Give her a wife? Ning Shu chuckled. Hardy's bright expression dimmed again. Even if the school gives me a wife, the person I like will always be Lance. Ning Shu thought, dream on. Ning Shu was not going to attend the wedding. As for Heller, he could take his revenge at any time. He could not cause trouble now. Right now, Tobias and Lance were like two grasshoppers on the same rope, and they were bound together for good or ill. With the money Lance gave him, Ning Shu was going to embark on his journey again. He might be able to find some treasures if he went to more places. After all, there were so many planets. There might be treasures on every planet. Hardy was still feeling sad. Seeing Ning Shu leave, he asked, "Brother-in-law, where are you going?" "I'm leaving. Let's part here," Ning Shu said kindly. "Don't attend the wedding. It'll hurt your heart." "No, I want to attend. At least I want to see him happy," Hardy said. He thought for a moment and asked, "Will the military school really give you a wife?" Ning Shu thought it felt like he was bullying an ignorant mountain person. "Prince, he's lying. I checked just now. The school won't give you a wife." Hardy's subordinate showed him the artificial intelligence. Hardy's expression became even sadder. Ning Shu could not be bothered with him. They had met by chance, so it was time to part. Ning Shu found a spaceship and was about to leave when he was told that he could not leave the main planet for now. He had to wait until the general's wedding was over. This meant that the main planet was in a situation where one could only enter and not leave. Something was brewing here, and it would explode when the time came. Who knew how many people would be blown off their feet? This was the feeling of an ultimate battle. Unable to leave, Ning Shu had no choice but to find a place to stay. There was also Hardy and a bunch of people who shamelessly followed her, saying that she was a local and they were unfamiliar with the place, so they could only rely on her. Every day, there were so many people sleeping on the floor that there wasn't even a place to walk. The wedding was getting closer and closer. Every day, there would be many warships patrolling the streets. Of course, with so many people, it was easy for conflicts to break out. Sometimes, the entertainment news would turn into a fight with someone over something. After meeting Lance that time, Ning Shu hadn't contacted Lance. He guessed that Lance was now preparing for battle. It was better not to disturb him. She did not need to worry about her younger brother, which made her feel rather comfortable. Ning Shu searched for information on his AI every day. He knew what planets had what wonders. Perhaps these wonders had some treasures. After sorting out these planets, he planned to go to these planets after the conflict was over. Hardy would go out every day and come back after a round. From time to time, he would brainwash Ning Shu. "Brother-in-law, I don't think Lance and General Tobias will be happy." "Ning Shu, do you think they'll be happy if they marry you?" "Give up, there's no chance. Perhaps there was a chance in your previous life, but you won't be able to imagine Lance in this life." No matter what deal Tobias and Lance had, even if it was a fake marriage, they were still husband and wife in the eyes of everyone. Not to mention the people who attended the wedding, the Galactic Network would spread the wedding scene and all sorts of details throughout the entire star system and the Empire. The Galactic Network was howling in grief. The dream lover of the Empire suddenly dropped a bomb and was going to marry someone else. This was so sudden that many people were heartbroken. Of course, on the Galactic Network, there were all sorts of slander and insults directed at Lance. They said that Lance was a flirtatious bitch who used her pheromones to seduce others. Of course, there were also some people who gave their blessings. Ning Shu was idling around every day. On the day of the wedding, warships flew across the sky, and all sorts of warships were assembled into different shapes. This was truly a sci-fi scene. Ning Shu didn't go. Instead, he watched the live broadcast at home. Knowing that something might happen at the wedding, Ning Shu was very obedient and didn't go. He was still a little afraid of encountering Heller. Heller definitely didn't come here alone this time. If Heller was alone, Ning Shu might still have a chance to kill him and destroy the evidence so that he wouldn't be wanted by the Federation. Although Hardy was poor, he was still a prince of the Empire, so he naturally had to attend the wedding. Most importantly, he was still a little hopeful that Lance would break off the engagement and elope with him. The wedding was extremely grand, and all of the Empire's nobles came to attend. All of the Empire's nobles had sent people of high status, and the Federation naturally attended as well. This was the largest wedding in the past 100 years. Ning Shu was eating snacks at home and watching the live broadcast. He saw Hardy, and although the camera only flashed past, he also saw Heller. Heller's expression was extremely dark. "I feel a lot better seeing you in a bad mood." The wedding was very sci-fi and romantic, and everyone made a promise to each other according to ancient rituals. However, halfway through the wedding, something happened to General Tobias. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face quickly turned ashen as he collapsed to the ground. Chaos ensued, and Lance also started to spit out blood. Ning Shu almost choked on his fruit. What the fuck? Was he assassinated? The situation started to spiral out of control, and there was an uproar. A newlywed couple had both died during their wedding. Although they weren't really dead, their lives were hanging by a thread. Ning Shu was a little puzzled, and all kinds of thoughts ran through his mind. He stared at the live broadcast without blinking, afraid that he would miss out on any details. Could it be that the two of them had orchestrated this? Ning Shu wasn't present, so he couldn't confirm whether the two of them were still alive. Their hearts aren't beating, their pupils are starting to dilate, someone yelled. The pillar of the empire had fallen just like that, and it seemed that he had been assassinated. Some people were secretly delighted, but there were also people who revealed expressions of sadness and anxiety. Some people were so angry that they directly locked down the entire planet to find out the truth. The empire's king was one of them. In any case, it was supposed to be a grand wedding, but it ended up like this. Everyone was trapped here, and the Locke Empire was clearly furious. What if they wanted to find someone to vent their anger on? Who was the culprit? All of the people who had enmity with General Tobias were immediately placed on the list of suspects. The entire planet was surrounded by battleships. The entire planet was in a state of low pressure, and no one was allowed to leave. Innocent people were all trapped here. Chapter 29-24. Hardy came back and yelled at Ning Shu, Look! Something happened. I told you that Lance and General Tobias wouldn't be happy. They were halfway through their wedding, and now they almost lost their lives. It's not even certain if they'll wake up. You weren't there, so you didn't see how Lance was vomiting blood. I couldn't squeeze in, so I could only watch as he was carried away. Hardy almost wiped away his tears, but Ning Shu remained silent with a cold expression. Aren't you going to say something? That's your brother. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. At least the two of them were still alive. Hopefully, they would be able to get along well. The incident at the wedding swept across the entire interstellar network. The pillar of the Locke Empire was in trouble, and ordinary people were worried that something might have happened to Tobias. If that happened, no one would be able to protect them. Some people only felt fear when the Iron Man Tobias fell. Tobias was already the spiritual symbol of a nation, and he was the embodiment of the spirit of the Locke Empire. Everyone who attended the wedding was suspected of being the culprit and had to face the wrath of the Locke Empire. Although some people were dissatisfied, they could only obediently accept the investigation after being surrounded by so many battleships. If something happened to Tobias, the Locke Empire would have no one to fight for the time being, and they might be able to annex it. There were many planets in the Locke Empire's star system, and some of them had rare metal deposits. Tobias had been fighting for the Locke Empire all these years, and he was like a loyal dog running at the forefront. Some people even suspected that the Locke Empire wanted to kill the dog, which was why this happened, and then trapped them here to reap the benefits. The Federation also seemed to be the culprit. If one were to ask who the Federation hated the most, it would be General Tobias, because he was simply too domineering. He made the Federation look bad. In short, there were so many suspects that they couldn't even count them with two hands. Ning Shu couldn't even visit Lance. Perhaps the Locke Empire wouldn't let anything happen to Tobias, but it might not be the same for his brother. He didn't know if Tobias was cultivating seriously. If he was, he might be able to live longer if his physique was better. Ning Shu was already annoyed, but Hardy kept on chattering. Ning Shu grabbed a fruit and stuffed it into his mouth. Shut up. Next time, I'll stuff you in a cup. Brother-in-law, should we go and see Lance? Hardy smacked his lips and ate the fruit before asking Ning Shu. Lance spat out a lot of blood. I reckon it's 2 big bowls. Can you stop describing it? Ning Shu simply said, let's wait. What are you waiting for? Hardy disagreed. You're Lance's brother. He must be feeling terrible right now. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. If she really went, she would be easily caught by Heller. With so many people ganging up on her, she would definitely be caught. She couldn't go. Ning Shu could only hope that this incident was directed by the two of them. They were waiting for news of their recovery. Don't cause trouble, and don't go around saying that you like Lance. Let me tell you, there are people who like Lance too. Don't act recklessly at such a crucial time. Otherwise, I'll expose you as a galactic pirate robbing a spaceship. Hardy frowned. Brother-in-law, we're talking about Lance. Why are we hurting each other? Anyway, just know your place and don't do anything. Ning Shu was also frustrated. He thought that he could look for treasures everywhere, but he didn't know how long he would have to stay here. He could only stay in a world for so long. When the time was up, he would have to leave the world. She still had so many planets that she hadn't visited. Hardy often paid attention to General Tobias and Lance's situation, but the news was kept tightly under wraps. Very little information leaked out, making the whole incident even more mysterious. It also made people feel even more uneasy as they tried to guess what was going on. The eagle of the Empire didn't die on the battlefield, but at a wedding. How ironic. At the same time, some empires began to get restless and began to deploy their forces. They eyed the Locke Empire covetously, ready to pounce and take a bite out of it at any time. The ordinary citizens of the Locke Empire were quite pessimistic, praying that the general would wake up. At the same time, they were furious. Who was the one who harmed the general? Was it someone from the Federation? The general was fighting for the Empire's interests, so he would definitely offend someone from the Federation. Thus, they changed from praying to cursing the Federation. This caused the Federation's prestige to drop. The Federation was originally established to mediate the conflicts between the empires and plan the interstellar map. It could be said that it was for the sake of the entire human race. Of course, the organization had existed for a long time, so it was inevitable that it would change. The current Federation was controlling the empires, overriding all of them, and demanding them to obey. They came up with a set of principles and forced the empires to obey. The strong weren't convinced, and the weak weren't taken care of. They were all dissatisfied. The Federation was like an emperor. The aftermath of General Tobias' incident was getting worse and worse. Even now, Ning Shu still felt that this matter should have been discussed between the two of them. Ning Shu was slightly relieved. He wondered if he should take advantage of the chaos to get rid of Heller. Before he left, he definitely had to take revenge for torturing the original owner of this body. After thinking about it, he felt that this wouldn't do. Not to mention that there were so many people watching. If something happened to someone from the Federation would no longer be under suspicion. You haven't even found any evidence yet, and you're already attacking someone from the Federation. You want an explanation? The Federation would then be the host. If things got complicated, the Empire would be in trouble. Ning Shu wasn't very patriotic, but he also didn't want to disrupt Lance and Tobias' plan. The situation that the two of them had worked so hard to create couldn't be ruined by her. Bear with it. He had to deal with this before he left anyway. He dripped some wax on his leather whip. Hardy said to Ning Shu, "If Lance is fine, let him come with me. It's too dangerous for him to follow General Tobias. As long as Lance comes with me, I won't study anymore. I'll go back to the planet and live a comfortable life." Ning Shu, aren't you robbing people for a living? Hardy, brother, can you stop talking about robbing people? Ning Shu said with a serious expression, "It's all up to Lance. If Lance wants to go with you, I won't stop him. However, if Lance wants to follow General Tobias, then I'll support him." Hardy pursed his lips. "I'm calling you brother-in-law for nothing. Even if you call me your ancestor, there's nothing I can do. Just calling me your ancestor can solve everything. Young man, you're too naive. You don't know how sinister people can be." Ever since the incident, news about Tobias had been sealed off. The public didn't know what had happened, and their emotions were still fermenting as they demanded to know more. This was so that they could calm down. However, the official news was that Tobias was still receiving treatment and that he was fine. Chapter 29-25. However, the citizens were not satisfied at all. There were some rumors that General Tobias was already dead, and the Empire was hiding the news from the general. Tobias was dead? How could such a ferocious person die? There was no way to confirm this, so the various powers tried to gather information about Tobias through various channels. If Tobias really was dead, then the Locke Empire would definitely be in pain for a while. The citizens were even more confused. Why didn't you tell us if the general was all right? Ning Shu looked at the interstellar network every day, and it was all about General Tobias. An empire only knew about generals but not kings. If the king was magnanimous and forgiving, then it would be fine. However, if the king was petty, then he would probably be gnashing his teeth in hatred. Tobias was truly too powerful. One day this dog may bite its master, and the master will definitely be frightened. Now, Ning Shu was starting to suspect that the empire was behind this, and that their goal was to kill Tobias. Ning Shu's mind was in a mess. Anyone could be the culprit, and he was even more worried about his younger brother. This guy was too stubborn. He didn't even say anything in advance, and he collapsed in an instant. Ning Shu could only think in a positive direction. After all, Lance had said that something would happen during the wedding. If something happened to Lance during this period of time, then her mission would most likely be ruined. As for what happened to Lance after she left, that would have nothing to do with her. However, nothing could happen to Lance during her mission. She could only wait. Everyone on the main planet was waiting for news. Even if his internal organs were damaged, he could just replace them. Not to mention replacing his internal organs, he could even replace his body. However, most people wouldn't abandon their own bodies. Furthermore, this type of surgery was prohibited by the Federation. As this matter fermented, it was getting more and more out of control, and the Empire had no choice but to leak some information. General Tobias is currently undergoing treatment, and his condition is improving. However, everyone's reaction was, "Really?" They couldn't believe it. Some people felt that the Empire was trying to cover up, which meant that Tobias' condition was very serious. Some people felt that General Tobias was truly recovering. However, they couldn't be sure at all. As a result, some empires wanted to attack the Locke Empire, but they were afraid that Tobias would fall from the sky and vomit blood. However, if Tobias' condition was truly dire, then there was no point in being too slow to act. Just like that, he hesitated. He wanted to go up, but he didn't dare. If he didn't go up, he would feel uncomfortable. Some people decided to test the waters and attack a planet. If Tobias was fine, he would definitely appear. War was about to break out, and the people were even more furious. Taking advantage of the fact that the general was sick, you actually dared to loot a burning house. At the same time, he was even more furious at the murderer who had hurt the general. Hurting their general and then robbing their empire, could they be any more bullying? Was the Federation dead at this time? If they weren't here to mediate the conflict between the empires, why weren't they jumping out to mediate? Instead, they were just watching others attack the empires for no reason. Ning Shu was speechless. He was a little dumbfounded. The development of the situation was simply like a wild horse out of its anus. There was a war, but the general didn't appear. How could the general be? Could it be that he was really dead? The empire hurriedly met the enemy, but their morale was low. This planet was quite far from the main planet, and reinforcements could not arrive in time, so it was quickly captured. After the planet was conquered, the resources on the planet would definitely be plundered. This was a war caused by a wedding. The Locke Empire was really a big piece of meat. If one had to compare General Tobias to a dog, then it was this ferocious dog that guarded this piece of meat so that no one dared to touch it. The fall of General Tobias made more and more people realize how important he was. There were pros and cons to his sudden collapse without a replacement. The Empire would probably nurture more talents so that they wouldn't have to entrust their safety to a single person. Relying on a single person to monopolize everything was unacceptable. Reading this news, Hardy was particularly melancholy. I really want a planet with rich mineral resources. However, he didn't have the money or soldiers to attack other planets. The more he thought about it, the sadder he felt. Did he really have to live off robbing for the rest of his life? who didn't want to live with dignity and be a powerful empire that stood tall among the other empires. A poor planet like theirs didn't even have a seat in the Federation's meeting. Not to mention voting, no one cared about their opinions. However, the conditions of the planet weren't good enough. Even the cleverest housewife couldn't cook without rice. They couldn't develop even if they wanted to. They could only become poorer and poorer. Seeing that someone had taken down a planet in the Locke Empire and plundered the rare metals, the other empires also began to brazenly attack other planets. The first to attack would eat their fill, and the last to attack would suffer. However, the Locke Empire had made preparations. Even if the eagle of the empire had fallen, the empire's strength and resources were still there. Did they really think that just anyone could come and rob them? They had invested so many resources to develop this new weapon, and they would use it to test it out. Previously, when they saw that someone had eaten the crab, of course, they wanted to follow the trend and get a share. However, they bumped into someone head-on and ended up with bruises all over their heads. They didn't get any benefits. At this time, the people who attacked the other planets were crying to the Federation. "Boss, they were using weapons of mass destruction. You have to do something about it." Previously, the Federation was still playing dead. When they saw the new weapon developed by the Locke Empire, they were a little shocked and immediately warned the Locke Empire that using such weapons was inhumane and a violation of human rights. When Ning Shu found out about this, he pursed his lips. The Federation was probably done for. Such actions were too shameful. The Federation's actions would only weaken their image of fairness and justice. The strength of the Locke Empire was probably a thorn in the side of the Federation. They had to keep it under control at all times. Otherwise, even the Federation wouldn't be able to control them. They probably wanted to use these greedy empires to erode some of the Locke Empire's strength and make it easier to manage them. The thorns needed to be dealt with. The development of the incident made Ning Shu feel relieved. Tobias and Lance should be fine. The citizens of the Locke Empire were burning with anger and cursed the Federation. Previously, when the Empire was invaded, they didn't even say a word. Now that the Empire was using weapons, they crawled out to complain. Could they be any more disgusting? This time, the general's accident must have been caused by the Federation. It was all for the sake of what would happen next. The Federation was so vicious. They used other empires to attack them. Why can't we use the weapons that we spent our own money and effort to make? Who do you think you are to say that we can't use them just because you say so? Ning Shu hoped that the empire would be fine. After all, if something happened to the Locke Empire, the citizens wouldn't have a good life either. Their country was gone, and they didn't even have roots. They were even less confident. Chapter 29-26. Hopefully, it would end soon so that she could find something good. It would be best if there wasn't a war. Otherwise, it wouldn't be safe anywhere. All sorts of discussions were brewing on the interstellar network. The culprit who assassinated General Tobias hadn't been found, and now they were attacking the Empire. This was premeditated. Now that something had happened to General Tobias, these people would snatch the Empire's resources. At this point, it didn't matter who the culprit was. The people trapped on the main planet requested to leave. This place wasn't safe at all, especially those who were attacking the Locke Empire. They were trembling in fear. Fuck, even if they wanted to fight, they should have waited until they left. If they fought, they would still be in someone else's territory. What if they killed them in anger? After all, the two countries were at war. What a scam. People like them didn't dare to go out. The moment they went out, the people would throw dirty things at them. They were extremely unwelcome here. They hid in their shells to reduce their presence. Hardy was envious. He wanted to take a bite out of his empire. At the very least, his subjects could live for a few decades. Robbing spaceships was just a small matter. Robbing a planet and attacking an empire was a big deal. They were so poor. What should they do? Hardy was mentally exhausted. "Prince," the king sent a message. "The volcano that burned all year round on our planet has been extinguished. Rare metals have been found." One of the subordinates jumped 3 feet into the air. He was so excited that he threw his snot far away and pounced on Hardy. "What? Hardy's expression was incredulous. Volcano extinguished? Rare metals? He was probably dreaming. The volcano that plagued the Empire had been extinguished. So be it. Rare metals were even found. Such good news. He must be dreaming. Hardy slapped his subordinate's face, but his subordinate was still smiling foolishly. Prince, the king wants to talk to you. He didn't even feel pain. He was indeed dreaming. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows when he heard the news. There was such a good thing? If rare metals were really found, this poor empire might be able to turn the tables. However, the prerequisite was that they could protect these things. The empire had neither money nor manpower. In the face of high-tech weapons, the fragile people were as fragile as little rabbits. Son, we're rich. We have rare metals. Sell them and we'll be rich. The fat king was so excited that his eyes could not be seen. Hardy pinched his own leg. It hurt a lot. This wasn't a dream. It's true, Dad. You have to keep it a secret first. Don't spread the news everywhere. There's a war going on here. We don't have any equipment, so there's nothing we can do if someone tries to rob us. Let's be quiet and wait for me to return. If someone took this opportunity to attack a planet with rare metals, their country would be in trouble. Now, Hardy wished he could fly back, but he couldn't. Previously, Hardy had an indifferent attitude. When he saw others wanting to leave, he was anxious. However, he had an indifferent attitude. As someone who had nothing, it did not matter. But now that he suddenly had a gold ingot at home, he was in a hurry to leave. He was deeply afraid that the gold ingot would be snatched away. I understand. Don't worry, son. We're in a remote area. No one will find us. The fat king nodded repeatedly. Son, we have money now. Don't worry and look for Iji. No matter what excessive requests you have, we can satisfy them. It was good to be rich. Hardy instructed, don't touch those things first. Wait for me to come back. I'm now trapped on the main planet of the Locke Empire. I know. I think something happened to General Tobias. Son, come back soon. I'll wait for you. After ending the call, Hardy's entire body was trembling. He was obviously excited. Suddenly, a windfall fell from the sky. It was as if he had 5 million. Prince, we can buy and sell metals in the future. We can buy more food and warships. That's great. Ancestors bless us. Now that we have money, what are we going to do? Drink a bag of nutrient fluid and throw it away. Hardy said, no one is to tell anyone about this. Wars are now because of resources and rare metals. If we tell anyone about this, these things will be snatched away. We won't even have a place to live. We promise not to tell anyone. We definitely won't. A few of his subordinates shook their heads like a rattledrum. Hardy calmed down and turned to look at Ning Shu, who was chewing on a fruit. Brother-in-law, don't tell anyone about this. I won't. However, it's not necessarily a good thing that you have rare metals. It was unreasonable for a child to carry gold through a busy market. Even if we're going to make a deal, you're so weak. I'll just give you some money and send you away. What? You don't agree? You think it's too little? As long as you don't tell anyone, I'll think of something. Also, don't tell anyone about my robbery. Pretending to be a galactic pirate was a capital offense. The Federation and even the other empires had a reason to send troops to wipe them out. It was only logical that they would occupy the planet and the rare metals. Ning Shu nodded. Don't worry. I won't tell anyone about this. If I do, I'll be in trouble. I'll be dragged into it myself. If I'm not careful, I'll lose my life. So what if he told them? These games between empires were not something ordinary people could afford to play. They did not have a huge amount of resources behind them for them to do whatever they wanted. Hardy heaved a sigh of relief. Brother-in-law, we're family. Who else can I trust but you? With rare metals, Lance will definitely live a good life. When Lance recovers, we'll leave this place and return to the planet to live a peaceful life. How about that? Ning Shu glanced at him. He still had not given up. Brother-in-law, why don't we let Lance fake his death and leave with him? Hardy felt that he had thought of a good idea. Ning Shu, how were they going to take him away? Especially since Lance had the smell of pheromones on him. No matter where he went, he would easily attract attention. Moreover, Lance obviously had his own goal now. Why would they bring him around? It would be easy for something to happen. That was why Ning Shu would not eat too much. Also, what good would it do to take Lance away? Hardy wanted to give birth to an outstanding child, but what good would it do her? What a cunning thought. With a rare metal, Hardy walked with a swagger. He looked like he was in high spirits when it came to happy events. Previously, they did not find the rare metals in the fire, or it was probably because of the burning magma. Without the red beads, the temperature of the magma dropped and it gradually extinguished. Even if it was not completely extinguished, it would probably slowly become an extinct volcano. However, even an extinct volcano could reignite. He had obtained the beads, and the Empire had obtained the rare metals. Perfect. He had to take advantage of the limited time to search for treasures. With so many planets, he would definitely find other treasures. /BK. Chapter 29-27. Although the Federation was there to mediate, unilaterally pressuring the Locke Empire to not use weapons that violated human rights, the Federation was still furious. The Locke Empire was furious. They ignored the Federation and used whatever they had to. Without a general, the Locke Empire couldn't be bullied by anyone. Anyone who tried to rob them would be dealt a heavy blow. The war temporarily diverted the attention of the people from the Locke Empire's general. Only a small number of people paid attention to General Tobias and wanted to know how he was doing. The Locke Empire was already so strong, and they had an advantage in weapons and equipment. They developed many weapons on their own, which caused panic. Was an empire like this planning to invade another country? With a general, it was like adding wings to a tiger. They hoped that Tobias would never wake up. The Federation was so angry that their hands were trembling. They hated the Locke Empire the most. They were always disobedient and made them lose face. This kind of strength shocked the Federation. They had to suppress it. For the sake of humanity and the peace of the galaxy, they had to attack the Locke Empire. Thus, the Federation came up with a set of regulations. They said that biological weapons were not allowed, and that every empire had to report to the Federation about the weapons they were developing. They had to be allowed to develop them. If not, they were not allowed to develop them. This was all for the sake of the peace of the universe. No one wanted their home to be turned into a war. When the time came, they would be the ones to be destroyed. Blah blah blah, all the regulations were against the Locke Empire. They were just short of pointing at the Locke Empire's nose. It was you. Ning Shu shook his head. The Federation wasn't strong, so they were especially afraid of others becoming strong. They did everything they could to attack them. Weak countries might still abide by the regulations, but strong countries wouldn't care. They would continue to develop what they needed. They followed the rules, but others were secretly developing weapons. No, they had to do it too. Otherwise, they would fall behind and be bullied. Although they weren't allowed on the surface, they could do whatever they wanted in private. The dignity of the Federation was lost. Hardy was worried. The Federation came up with this policy. Will it affect the sales of rare metals? It wasn't easy to find rare metals. They were just about to use it to make a comeback when the Federation came up with such a policy. Fuck the Federation, they had eaten too much. Just when they thought they were the angels of justice, they had gone overboard. Of course not. Maybe because of the ban, some transactions will be done in private, and the price will be higher. Ning Shu objected. If any country purchased rare metals in large quantities, it would be obvious at a glance what research and development they were doing and what they were producing. The Federation immediately launched an investigation. In order to avoid this kind of trouble, they would have to do it in secret. When the time came, smuggling would be rampant, and the price of the metal would be higher. If the policy did not allow it, the risk would be higher and the cost would increase. Naturally, the price would be higher. Therefore, the Federation's move was a completely foolish one. They would exhaust themselves to death, and in the end, it would cause these empires to break free from the Federation's control. In short, if you meddle too much, you will lose your prestige and authority if you meddle too much, no matter how big or small it is. Only when it was related to the survival of the human race or the direction of its development would they interfere. Wouldn't it be good to be lofty and mysterious? Even if he worked himself to death, he still couldn't get it. Hardy glanced at Ning Shu. How did you know? Ning Shu, if you use your brain a little, you will understand. The business on the surface will become a gray area, and the price will not be decided by the owner. Of course, when the time comes, more empires will plunder resources everywhere. It was better to own it than to buy it everywhere. Hardy was speechless. It was worrying when there were no rare metals, but it was also troublesome when there were rare metals. If they were not careful, others would attack the empire because the planet had rare metals. The empire's equipment was not as good as these powerful empires. When the time came, they would probably be slaughtered. It was possible that the empire would be destroyed. Hardy could not sit still anymore. He wanted to fly back to the planet. The first thing he wanted to do was to buy equipment with all the empire's money and arm himself first. Everyone had been trapped on the main planet for more than a month, and they were unprecedentedly agitated. It had been a month, and they were still not letting them go. This was too much. This was captivity. With the strong demands of all parties, the Empire had no choice but to let these people leave and remove the lock on the main system. The people who came to attend the wedding left one after another. Hardy also had to leave with his subordinates. He was originally here to study, but his family suddenly made a fortune, so he had to deal with more important matters first. Hardy said to Ning Shu, "Brother-in-law, welcome to my planet to play. You will see a brand new planet, prosperous and rich." Ning Shu just nodded casually. Let's go quickly." Every night, the sound of snoring would come one after another. It was hard to rest well. Hardy hesitated for a moment. "Brother-in-law, next time you come, you have to bring Lance with you." Ning Shu waved his hand. Despicable again. After Hardy and the others left, the house became much emptier and quieter. Ning Shu also wanted to leave and go to various planets to look for good stuff, but he had to make sure that Lance was fine. The ultimate martial arts she was cultivating now allowed her to fly in the air. She could fly without a mech, but she could not use it in front of others. After all, if she flew without anything, she might be caught by the research institute. She had to get some mechs, even if it was just a flying mech. She just did not have enough money. Why were mechs so expensive? It was like a house. Ordinary people could only dream of it. She still had to use the money to look for treasures. Luckily, Lance did not need to drink suppressants now. Otherwise, she would be even poorer. It had been so long. Was Lance okay? Ning Shu was very worried that something might have happened to Lance. Ning Shu planned to go out and buy something. There was no food at home. She could just buy some cheap nutrient. Fruits were too expensive. She had to save them. Also, without news of Lance, she was not in the mood to eat. She felt so worried. Once Lance was fine, she would pack up and leave immediately. Following Lance was really scary. Just as she walked out of the door, she bumped into Heller. Ning Shu quickly hid. Heller was stunned for a moment and ordered his soldiers to look for Ning Shu. Ning Shu grinned. Enemies were bound to meet. Couldn't they leave? The Federation had already retreated. Why was Heller still here? And this time, he was not alone. It seemed like she was at a disadvantage this time. She had to bring more people this time. What should she do? The advanced galactic network made it impossible for her to kill Heller. If she killed him, she would be able to find out quickly. But she was caught by Heller. It was also the fate of a client. She would be tortured for no reason. /BK. Chapter 29-28. Perhaps Heller was staying here to find out about Tobias and Lance. Or perhaps he was staying here to spy on the Empire for the Federation. In any case, this was not a good thing for Ning Shu. "Come out, I know you're in there. When I catch you, hee." Heller gritted his teeth. Ning Shu felt like Heller wanted to chew him alive. Ning Shu stood up and greeted Heller. "Heller, hee, arrest him," Heller ordered his men. Ning Shu immediately said, "Wait. Capture him." Heller remained expressionless. "Do you think Lance will appear if I catch you?" Ning Shu pursed his lips. Are you retarded? My little brother vomited blood, and Tobias and Lance didn't appear when the Empire was in danger. I'm just an insignificant person, so how could I appear? Ning Shu waved a hand at Tobias. Come here, I'll show you a treasure. Heller, do you think I'll believe you? He had suffered at the hands of this bastard before, so he wasn't going to believe him no matter what he said. Fine, it's fine if you don't believe me. I really did want to show you a treasure, but you didn't want it, so don't pull it. Ning Shu retreated as he ran away. He yelled for help as he ran, and at the same time he used the galactic network to call for help. Help, the Federation is going to kill me. Police, please save me. Ning Shu ran like the wind, and the people behind him had to use their mechas to catch up to him. They had never seen someone run as fast as him. Ning Shu's movements quickly attracted attention, and some of the patrolling soldiers of the Empire discovered him, and they stopped their battleships to assist Ning Shu. Ning Shu rushed over with tears and snot all over her face. Her face was full of terror and fear. Help! The Federal Academy wants to kill me. They want to capture me and torture me. They want to prick my fingers with needles and pull out my nails. Everyone! Heller stopped in his tracks. This is a wanted criminal, so I hope you can hand him over to the Federation. These patrolmen's faces were ugly. They hated hearing the words, Federation, the most now. They didn't have any good impression of the Federation at all. What crime did he commit? The patrol officer asked. He didn't intend to let him go, mainly because he wanted to disgust him. Ning Shu said, I'm a citizen of the Locke Empire, and I didn't commit any crimes. It's this person who's trying to take revenge on me. Furthermore, I'm the older brother of General Tobias' partner. This person once coveted my younger brother, but he didn't succeed. Now, he's causing trouble for me. Oh, what evidence do you have? The patrol officer's expression became serious. This matter concerned General Tobias, so he couldn't afford to be careless. Everyone knew that General Tobias' other half was extremely attractive to A. Could it be that this federal colonel was coveting General Tobias' other half? Now that the general's situation was not good, they came to bully people related to the general. Ning Shu said to the patrol officer, I have a pass from the general. It's at home. I can give it to you. Don't hand me over to him. I didn't commit a crime. Don't worry, we will deal with this matter seriously. At the same time that the patrolman informed the others, many battleships flew over and surrounded the place. Heller's expression was a little ugly as he looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu immediately shrank behind the patrol officer, looking very scared. Some of the patrol officers accompanied Ning Shu home to get the pass to prove his identity, while others confronted Heller. This was no longer about Ning Shu. Instead, it was about the conflict between the Empire and the Federation. This matter had been magnified. Heller also knew that his identity as a federal colonel was sensitive, especially now that the Locke Empire was angry. He stayed here for personal reasons. This confrontation wouldn't do him any good. Who knew that this guy would run around like a shrew? The first time he didn't pay attention, he got tricked, and this time he did it again. He had really underestimated him. He thought that this guy would be trembling in fear when he saw him again. Instead, he was trembling behind the patrol officer, as if he had already done something to him. Anyway, this matter would definitely be reported, and the Locke Empire would definitely question the Federation. They would use this matter to cause trouble. Now, they had a good reason. Ning Shu also knew that this was an advantage for him. When he gave his statement, he described how he met Heller and how Heller forced him to go home and find his brother. If General Tobias hadn't arrived in time, her brother would have been snatched away. She was AB, so she had no value and would alert the enemy. She would definitely have been killed. Of course, he left out the part about the kidnapping. How could a mediocre B and a weak C kidnap a strong A with cool equipment? No one would believe him even if he said it out loud. Even if Heller said it out loud, he would be the one losing face, and the Federation might even blow this matter up. Is the person trained by the Federation useless? How could an ordinary person from the Federation tie him up? This document had to be verified. Even if General Tobias didn't testify, there were other people who went with Tobias, so the situation couldn't be clearer. As long as the authenticity of this document was proven, the Federation could be slapped in the face. Didn't the Federation say that it was for human rights and that there shouldn't be human trafficking for the sake of humanity? Even the smallest thing could be blown up. Ning Shu and Heller were locked up separately. You're on the other side of the mountain, and I'm on the other side of the water. Ning Shu sneered at Heller. Give up. My brother and General Tobias have already pledged themselves to each other. You don't have a chance. Heh, did you do that to my brother? You didn't steal my brother, so you're doing this to him. Heller shouted gloomily, shut up. Maybe I'll make you speechless. Stealing someone wasn't that serious, but harming a Federation general was a crime punishable by death. You're throwing all the shit at me. Ning Shu immediately covered his mouth in horror. Did you really do it? Are you going to kill me now? Heller really wanted to kill him right now. If this bastard was so troublesome, he would have snapped his neck even if Tobias had been there. He wouldn't fall for his trap now. The Federation demanded an explanation from the Federation with this document. You can't just demand things from others without restraining your own people. What's the difference between you and a thief? You can't be so strict with others and treat yourself with leniency. Moreover, the Empire had publicized the matter widely and asked with great fanfare. Everyone knew about it. Even the Federation wanted to kill him. With so many people watching, the Federation's reputation was being tarnished. Most importantly, the Federation's reputation was plummeting. If they were to go back on their word, people would slowly start to take the Federation seriously and look down on them for doing such despicable things. Heller could only abandon the Rook to save the king. Heller's status as a Federation general was stripped. /BK, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.